Chapter 959. In the morning, let's go back to the He Corporation. He Zhenghai is going to change his will and redistribute his shares. Then you're going to make a fortune again, right? Qin Chu laughed. Yeah, if you lose your job I can take care of you. Ever since I married you I have a lot more money in my pocket. Okay, then I won't have to worry about losing my job. Ever since she married Qin Chu, not counting the tens of millions that he transferred her, Huamin's salary was 1,000,000 yuan from GK's finance department. Therefore Huamin was now a rich woman. She had so much money that she couldn't spend it all. Then let's have lunch together. Come find me, I'll wait for you at the company. Yeah, sure. Huamin nodded. Mr. and Mrs. Hua's matching outfits are very nice. A maid beside them said quietly. Huamin looked down and realized that she and Qin Chu were both wearing white today. DG's white sweater was loose. Although it wasn't the sexy type, it was still very youthful. The high school vibe was very suitable for Huamin, who was a little fresh. She randomly found this one in her closet. It was just a pair of simple dark-colored denim pencil pants and a pair of sheepskin heels. Qin Chu also wore white, which was a rare sight. It was the latest men's knitted sweater from a famous luxury brand in France. He rarely wore bright colors, but it looked especially good on him. Especially in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows when the sun shone in, their white outfits matched the scenery. Our outfits really match. Huamin smiled. Our hearts are connected. Qin Chu looked at her, his gaze as gentle as water. When they left South Hill Manor, they each drove their own cars and went their separate ways at the fork in the road. He Corporation headquarters. When Huamin arrived, it wasn't time yet. She had always been punctual and hated waiting for others, but she also hated being waited for. She felt that being punctual was the most basic form of respect for others. The shareholders came in one after another, but Xinjiani and Hu Si were nowhere to be seen. Hu Yanyan followed behind He Zhenghai when he walked in. She looked haggard and wasn't dressed as ostentatiously as before. It was just a black woolen dress with her hair in a high ponytail. His complexion was terrible and there were obvious dark circles under his eyes. Needless to say, Hu Yanyan had not been doing well recently because her powerful mother had been grounded. A brainless person like her naturally wouldn't be able to stir up any waves. After she came in, she glanced at Huamin without saying anything. At that moment, Hu Siqian walked in. President Hua. President Hua. Now the shareholders' attitude towards Hu Siqian had already surpassed that of He Zhenghai, the chairman. Since everyone is here then, let's begin. Dad, why don't you start? Hu Siqian smiled at He Zhenghai. He Zhenghai had been through a lot recently, and the white hair on both sides of his ears was especially obvious. Something happened at home recently, so I planned to redistribute the shares and make a will. Today I invited everyone here to be witnesses. Then He Zhenghai's lawyer walked up and read the terms one by one. Everyone listened in silence. Although the He Corporation was a family business, it didn't have all the shares. The small shareholders still had a lot of shares. After this redistribution, Hu Siqian's shares didn't increase by much, but Jiang Hong's shares increased by 2%. Huamin's shares also increased by 10%, becoming the second largest shareholder after He Zhenghai. Hu Yanyan and Xinjiani's shares were taken away, and Hu Si's shares were less than 2%. It seemed like even though she was his biological daughter, it couldn't stop He Zhenghai from venting his anger on her. After the announcement, no one said anything. After all, this was the He family's business. Huamin, don't let me down, He Zhenghai said to Huamin in a meaningful tone. Huamin wanted to say something but didn't. She was actually very conflicted. If He Zhenghai knew that she wasn't his biological daughter, he would probably be so angry that he would start foaming at the mouth. Little sister Mian is so smart, of course she won't let you down, Hu Siqian answered for her. He Zhenghai nodded and left, exhausted. As Huamin walked out, Hu Yanyan suddenly whispered behind him, Huamin, I have something to talk to you about. Huamin turned around and looked at her in surprise. Can we talk somewhere else? It's not convenient here. Obviously Hu Yanyan didn't want Hu Siqian to know. Chapter 960. Okay. Huamin nodded and followed Hu Yanyan to a small lounge next to the conference room. She looked haggard and was no longer as arrogant as she used to be. Huamin, I have a favor to ask of you. What is it? Huamin nodded. He knew that Hu Yanyan was no longer a threat to him. Can you introduce me to Shen Mingxi? I want to pursue him. Shin Mingxi? Who? It wasn't Huamin's fault that he wasn't well informed. Shin Mingxi was too low-key. He's one of the four princes, the son of the Shin family from the Beiyang Automobile Company. He came back not long ago. Oh right, he came back around the same time as young Master Su, but I don't know him. I know. Shin Mingxi is very low-key and rarely interacts with people in the industry. I can't reach him even if I wanted to, but I heard that he's very close to young Master Su. I think, since you're so close to Su Yu, it won't be a problem if you ask him to introduce you to him. As for whether or not I can get him, that's up to me. You just need to be in charge of the referral. Huamin was about to speak when Hui Yanyan said, I won't let you help me for free. I can transfer some of my shares to you. After all, you'll be the second biggest shareholder after my dad. You can compete with Hu Xiqian. The problem is, I'm not interested in your shares and I don't want to compete with Hu Xiqian. You don't have to lie to me. My mom already said that you're definitely not with Hu Xiqian. Your mom knows me that well. Hu Mian was surprised. She didn't expect Shin Jiani to be so thorough. My mom didn't say why, but I believe in her analysis. What do you think? Do you want to do this deal? I'll use my shares in exchange for your recommendation. Hui Yanyan sincerely begged Huamin. She didn't care what the news said, but she knew that Huamin and Suyu had a special relationship. If Huamin asked, Suyu would definitely help. The problem was whether she could open her mouth or not. Sorry, I can't help you. Huamin declined with a smile. First of all, she was not interested in Hui Yanyan's remaining shares. Furthermore, it wouldn't take long for those shares to fall into Hu Xiqian's pockets. Secondly, she didn't want to get involved in this mess with Suyu. It wasn't easy for her and Mr. Qin to return to how loving they used to be. She didn't want to do anything that would make Mr. Qin upset. Therefore, Huamin rejected her without hesitation. Hui Yanyan looked at Huamin's back, crestfallen. She never thought that she would one day be in such dire straits. She actually envied Huamin. She used to mock her for being poor, for being a bastard, for being a child without a father. Now she had a father and money, but her life was worse than a dog's. On the other hand, Huamin could openly marry Qin Chu and be loved by Suyu. Anyone would go crazy with jealousy for a woman like her, right? After Huamin finished talking to Hui Yanyan, she was about to head downstairs when Hu Xiqian's secretary stopped her. Miss Hua, the president is waiting for you. What is it? I'm not sure, you'll find out when you go in. The female secretary smiled. Every time Huamin came to the Hu Corporation, Hu Xiqian would always force her into the office. She didn't even bother to knock on the door, so she pushed it open and walked in. Hu Xiqian was signing documents for the finance department. Okay, sign these first, you can leave. Yes, President Hua. Come sit down. Hu Xiqian waved his hand and smiled at Huamin. Just tell me what you want, I have to go to GK in a bit. Hu Xiqian looked at Huamin and said meaningfully, I don't think you should wear a low-cut shirt today. Since when did you like to comment on my clothes? Huamin was amused. Don't tell me you don't know what's on your neck? Upon hearing Hu Xiqian's words, Huamin froze. She was in a hurry to make breakfast this morning, so she didn't look at herself in the mirror. Upon hearing what he said, she immediately ran to the mirror on the other side of the room and looked at herself. Then her face immediately turned red. There was a strawberry mark on her neck. Oh my God, this was so embarrassing. Mr. Qin was so mean, he didn't tell her this morning. She even walked around in front of the maids and Uncle Li. Wasn't this a blatant display of affection? So that brother-in-law of mine, has he become so domineering now? He has to put a label on you at all times, afraid that someone will take you away? Hu Xiqian placed his finger on his temple and looked at Huamin with a half-smile. Chapter 961. Do you need something? If you have something to say, just say it. If not, I'm leaving. Huamin truly felt that it was too perverted to talk about such a private topic with Hu Xiqian. He decided not to respond. Look at you, you're so patient and calm with everyone else. Why is it that when it comes to me, your older brother, you're like a barrel of gunpowder ready to explode at any moment? That's because you're like gasoline, easily flammable and explosive, Hu Xiqian. Huamin's evaluation of him couldn't be any weirder. Fine, you have a point, but I'm about to help you get rid of your stumbling block. Can't you sincerely thank me? After you succeed, I'll bring canned melon seeds and ham sausages to your door to thank you. Hu Xiqian, what the hell was canned melon seeds and ham sausages? Hu Xiqian was completely dumbfounded. Huamin, you really are a weirdo. I've met countless people but I've never met someone like you. Huasichen was both angry and amused. That means you're still ignorant. That's right, the world is full of strange things. I suspect that you're a mutant from the Jurassic era. Huasichen gave a pertinent comment. So you asked me to come to your office just to talk nonsense with you? Huamin was losing his patience. Talking nonsense depends on my mood, not everyone can talk nonsense with me. So you want me to take 2 feet of floral cloth and make you open crotch pants? Huamin truly felt that if he didn't make Huasichen angry at him a few times, he would always smile at him. As expected, floral cloth and open crotch pants. These words completely enraged Huasichen. He quickly dialed the internal line and said, "See him out. Goodbye." Huamin proudly walked out of President Hua's office with a smug smile on his face. Huasichen was left speechless. He now understood that anyone who could fall in love with a monster like Huamin was also a monster. For example, Tsundra Qin, Tyrannical Su, and him, Psycho Hua. If the 4 of them got together to play mahjong one day, the scene would be spectacular. The scenario in his mind could be as follows: 70,000. Huamin played a card. Your previous player, Su Yu, just finished playing 70,000, Huasichen reminded him. That's right. It's because he offered 70,000 that you guys didn't want it. That's why I offered 70,000. But didn't you say that we have to keep an eye on the next player when playing cards? Why don't you fight with the next family instead of fighting with the previous one? Huasichen tried his best to persuade Huamian. He thinks that I'm too handsome, elegant and charming. So why would he target a lowly person like you? Of course he wants to follow in my footsteps, Su Yu said. Okay, then I'll eat. Huasichen picked up the 70,000 and was about to eat it. Qin Chu, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly said, "Touch." Huasichen, why didn't you touch Su Yu's 70,000 just now? Why did you touch Huamin's? Huasichen was confused again. As long as it's Mion's, anything is fine. Mr. Qin doted on his wife. He had already reached the point of qi deviation. Damn it, I'm done. I can't play mahjong anymore. You guys aren't here to play mahjong, you're here to torture me. Huasichen was still immersed in his fantasy of a 4-player mahjong game. Huamin, on the other hand, drove to GK headquarters. He hadn't been here in a while, so the people there were still very warm towards a young lady. They weren't affected by the negative news at all. When Huamin walked into the office, Qin Chu was still in the conference room. Yang sensibly poured her a glass of milk. A young lady, please wait for a moment, the president is still in a meeting. Huamin casually sat down on the sofa and waited. Just then his phone rang. She glanced at it and saw that it was Qin Chu's phone. It seemed like he didn't bring it into the conference room. She didn't want to pick it up, but when she saw that it was Song Yisher, she immediately changed her mind. Huamin picked up. Song Yisher was obviously surprised. She didn't expect Huamin to pick up. Is Qin Chu there? You can talk to me if you have something to say, Huamin replied bluntly. Chapter 962. I'm sorry, Huamin, it's not convenient for me to talk to you about this. Song Yisher's tone was still as gentle as ever. Huamin was annoyed that she was always so pretentious. Even if you talk to him later, he'll still talk to me. It's all the same, Huamin replied confidently. I wouldn't have known if you didn't tell me. You guys don't give each other any privacy. I didn't know that couples in China get along like this. No wonder the divorce rate is so high. What do you mean by that? Huamin was a little angry. I'm just saying, don't think too much. Huamin, I don't mean anything by it. I just think that couples should respect each other and have privacy. After all, you can't invade each other's space. You guys are 2 individuals, you don't have to depend on each other, right? I understand that. But the problem is, why do we need an outsider to explain how we get along? Also, it's your business how close you are with Qin Chu's parents. But don't think that you're already a part of the Qin family. Sometimes people have to know their place. Before Song Yisher could say anything, Qin Chu pushed open the door and walked in. Here, your phone. Huamin handed it over. Who is it? He asked. Miss Song, Huamin emphasized on her name. Qin Chu took the phone and asked faintly, What's up? Qin Chu, my mom just came back from Yanzi Lake and caught a lot of fresh fish. Don't you like fish? Mrs. Qin said you've always loved to eat them, so my mom asked the maids to make a lot of them. Some are steamed, some are braised, some are boiled, and some are stewed. Dad said he wanted to invite you to our house. Before Song Isher could finish her words, Chin Chu rejected her directly. Thank Uncle Song for me. I won't be eating. I've already promised my wife that I'll accompany her for the next few days. Oh, I see, another day then. Actually, you can bring me on along, Song Isher added. No, she doesn't like fish and I rarely eat it. Thank you for your kindness. Then Chin Chu hung up the phone. Do you like to eat fish? Huamin didn't know that Chin Chu had this hobby. She always had dinner with Gao Ran and Zhu Lingling, but why didn't she realize that Mr. Chin liked fish? That was a long time ago. There was one time when my dad and I came back from fishing. Then we steamed a fish in the microwave. I felt that it was quite fresh, so I ate a lot. My mom thought that I liked to eat fish. From then on we often had fish at home. I see. Huamin nodded. Have you been waiting for a long time? Chin Chu reached out his hand and lovingly rubbed her face with the back of his hand. No, I just got here a few minutes ago. What do you want to eat for lunch? Chin Chu asked. I don't know, but I know that Lingling is on vacation today. I think she's meeting with Gao Ran. Should we go and ruin their date? Huamin smirked. Honey, do you really think it's a good idea to do that? Chin Chu couldn't help but laugh. What's wrong with that? Sco. I heard from Lingling that they're eating roast duck on Chang'an Avenue. Let's give them a chance encounter. Then before Chin Chu could say anything, Huamin excitedly grabbed Chin Chu's hand and walked out. Like a little kid, they jogged down the street. All the employees were dumbfounded by what they saw. At a roast duck restaurant on Chang'an Avenue, when Huamin and Chin Chu went upstairs, they immediately saw Gao Ran and Zhu Lingling sitting by the bed. They seemed to be sweetly talking about something. Huamin quietly walked up behind Zhu Lingling and suddenly patted her on the back. Ah! Zhu Lingling was so scared that she immediately screamed. Gao Ran was so angry that he was about to pull out his gun. However, when she looked up and saw Huamin and Chin Chu, she immediately fell silent. Why are you guys here? What a coincidence. The two of you. Huamin deliberately smiled. Gao Ran and Zhu Lingling immediately felt awkward as if they were caught cheating. Chapter 963. Zhu Lingling, why didn't you invite me when there was good food? Huamin asked angrily on purpose. Oh. I'm on leave today. Gao Ran said there's a good roast duck restaurant here, so he brought me here to try it. Gao Ran, you're so rich. Why didn't you invite me to roast duck? Aren't you guys buddies? Huamin purposely looked at Gao Ran and asked. Gao Ran immediately coughed dryly. Ahem. Isn't Mr. Chin busy? I heard that there's a New Year's Eve party, so I didn't invite him. You didn't even ask me. How did you know I was busy? You're amazing. Chin Chu quietly looked at Gao Ran and added insult to injury. Gao Ran immediately felt even more awkward. Hey, come on, let's eat together. Zhu Lingling immediately stood up and gave up her seat. She wanted to change the subject so that it wouldn't be awkward anymore. You guys are getting along well. You can even eat roast duck together? Huamin continued to stir up trouble. Zhu Lingling, ahem. Gao Ran, ahem. Honey, what are you talking about? How could they reconcile? I bet they're going to split the cost of roast duck, right? Chin Chu purposely said. Yeah, we're going to split the cost. Gao Ran is such a stingy cop, how could he treat me? Zhu Lingling, why are you adding insult to injury? Gao Ran looked wronged. She was the one who said she wanted to eat roast duck and he said he would treat her, so the two of them hit it off. However, after Chin Chu and Huamin attacked them, they split the cost of roast duck. What a joke. That's how it is. Don't make it sound like we're close friends. We're just paying our own way. Zhu Lingling kept blinking at Gao Ran, afraid that he wouldn't understand. Gao Ran was also helpless. In the end, he lowered his head dejectedly and didn't say anything. At this time, the roast duck was served. Huamin was also hungry. He rolled up a biscuit and was about to eat it when he suddenly changed direction. She brought it to Chin Chu's lips. Hubby, try it. Thank you, my wife. Are you two really here to eat roast duck? Aren't you here to show off your love? Gao Ran looked at the Chin clan couple with eager eyes. Huamin laughed. Nonsense, we're all hungry. How can we be in the mood to show off our love? Hubby, you should eat. It's a waste not to eat. Girl, do you think we're idiots? Can't you two be more mindful of your status? You're a god-level tycoon, but you want to make us poor? Zhu Lingling complained. Because Huamin ate too quickly, there was a bit of sauce on the corner of his mouth. Qin Chu took out a tissue from the side and gently wiped it off for her. Zhu Lingling and Gao Ran looked at him with envy and jealousy. Lingling, the man you told me about on WeChat yesterday, how are things going between you two? Huamin asked in all seriousness. Zhu Lingling was instantly dumbfounded. Me? The one who said he chased after you like crazy and gave you 99 roses. Huamian added another stab at Huamian. At this moment, Gao Ran's face was ashen. Zhu Lingling, I didn't know you were so popular. I didn't. Listen to me, girl, you're not here to eat roast duck. You're here to trick me, aren't you? Only then did Zhu Lingling realize that she didn't talk to Huamin about a man last night. Recently, other than Gao Ran, she didn't talk to anyone else on WeChat. Huamin was a classic example of slandering someone. Before Zhu Lingling could explain herself, Qin Chu looked at Gao Ran and asked, how are you and the policewoman you took in? Didn't you say you met her parents? Gao Ran, which policewoman? He didn't know how to react. Are there many? Qin Chu asked back. Gao Ran. Zhu Lingling gritted her teeth as she glared at him. She wanted to tear him apart. I swear to God, there's no policewoman. I've been so tired from being on duty lately. There are so many missions, Gao Ran immediately explained with a bitter face. In the end, Qin Chu and Huamin laughed arrogantly. Only then did they realize that they had fallen into a trap. Are you two done fooling around? Gao Ran glared at Mr. and Mrs. Qin, his teeth itching. That's too much. It's bad enough that you're torturing us single people. How dare you trick us? Zhu Lingling was also furious. Who told you two to date in secret? Actually, it's normal for you two to have an affair, but you won't admit it. I can't stand it. Is it that hard to admit that you're in a relationship? Huamin said as he ate. The two of them looked at each other and fell silent. So please answer my wife, did you two sleep together? Qin Chu asked in all seriousness. Chapter 964. Huamin thought her husband was going to ask her if she was in a relationship. Instead, he directly asked if she had slept with him. It was like a bolt from the blue. Honey, aren't you being too direct? Huamin couldn't stop laughing. Gao Ran and Zhu Lingling froze for a long time, unable to say anything. After a while, Gao Ran glanced at Qin Chu and said, You've been led astray by your wife. He's always talking about sex. Ha! Huamin hadn't laughed so heartily in a long time. She burst out laughing when she heard Gao Ran's comments about Mr. Qin. The smell of oil splattered everywhere. Qin Chu quietly took out a tissue and continued to wipe his wife's face. I just want to ask, can we still eat roast duck happily? Zhu Lingling looked at Huamin pitifully. Of course we can. If you two tell us the truth, we'll continue eating. Otherwise, we'll continue to interrogate you. You don't even interrogate criminals like this. Gao Ran was full of resentment. So, judging by your unsatisfied look, you haven't gotten what you wanted yet? Qin Chu looked at Gao Ran and asked. Gao Ran, oh, I know. Last time at the hotel, Gao Ran, it seems like you didn't get anything good out of her. Huamin suddenly understood. Girl, you've been led astray. You're not pure anymore. Zhu Lingling looked at Huamin and pouted. So, did you two get together or not? Gao Ran, Zhu Lingling, Qin Chu looked out the window and saw the bright sun. Suddenly he said, let's do it today. After eating roast duck, you two can go straight to the Ritz-Carlton. I'll ask them to reserve a presidential suite for you two. Then I'll ask the waitress to prepare some fresh flowers and red wine for you. Mr. Qin was extremely generous. And condoms. Basic precautions are still necessary, Huamin added. Goodbye. Goodbye. Gao Ran and Zhu Lingling said their goodbyes and were about to leave. Huamin grabbed her arm and said, I won't tease you anymore. Sit down. Honey, why are you pulling me away? Do you know that you're holding me up? They're in a hurry to say goodbye because they're in a hurry to go to the hotel. Oh, so that's how it is. That's enough, you do. Can't you stop for a roast duck at noon? Gao Ran was speechless. That's right. Haven't you been caught in an affair recently? And aren't you still at the heart of the storm when you testified for Suyu? You're really big-hearted. You even came out to eat roast duck. I think your hearts added together are bigger than roast duck. Zhu Lingling cursed. Huamin pursed his lips and smiled. Only when we're big-hearted can we live freely. We don't care about anything else. Okay, that's the end of the topic. Let's eat before it gets cold. Gao Ran was the one who said this. How romantic would it have been if they had eaten roast duck? However, the Qin clan couple had ruined everything. Gao Ran was quite frustrated. Otherwise, he would have taken Zhu Lingling to the movies after lunch. Are you guys going back to the company after lunch? Gao Ran purposely asked. No, we don't have anything going on today. We'll go wherever you guys go, Huamin replied. Huamin, you can't do this. You guys don't know the suffering of the starving. You're done being lovey-dovey, so you're trying to ruin other people's lives. That's immoral, right? So, are you taking her to a hotel? If you are, we won't follow you. Otherwise, we'll follow you to the end. Huamin said. Zhu Lingling angrily stood up and said, Stupid cop, let's go, I'll take you to a hotel. Sit down first, don't be impulsive. Gao Ran immediately tried to persuade her. No, we'll go right now. I'll see if they can still follow us. We're not going to that Carlton, I'll treat you to a small hotel. A small hotel doesn't have good soundproofing, right? Huamin laughed. It's better if the soundproofing isn't good. We can eavesdrop from next door, especially from next door. So exciting. Gao Ran, Huamin, Qin Chu, if you guys have the guts to play, then don't be a coward. Let's get 2 rooms together. You guys can stay next door and see who can stay longer. Do you have the guts? Zhu Lingling was even more ferocious than a Manchurian tiger. Venomous Tungling, don't fucking act like a tiger. Sit down. Gao Ran secretly pulled her hand. Huamian was also dumbfounded. He was just wondering what to say to that. Then Mr. Qin slowly said, Good idea. Then everyone was dumbfounded, including Zhu Lingling. She was just bragging, okay? She didn't think that Qin Chu would be so terrifying. Chapter 965. Mr. Qin, I was just bragging, huh? Zhu Lingling backed down at this critical moment. But I took it seriously. Qin Chu looked serious. Huamin, can't you control your man? Are you trying to push him to his death? Zhu Lingling looked at Huamin, wanting to cry but having no tears. She clearly wanted to ask for help. In this world, the only person who could suppress Qin Chu was Huamin. Honey, let's stop teasing them. Let's go home. Huamin saw that the sharp-tongued couple couldn't take it anymore, so he decided to stop teasing them. Huamian and Qin Chu secretly ate roast duck, but the 2 of them ruined it. It wasn't easy for them. Huamin wiped his mouth with a napkin, pulled Qin Chu up and stood up. Thank you for the roast duck, Huamin said with a smile. Hero, goodbye. Gao Ran cupped his hands, making Huamin burst into laughter again. Huamin was still laughing when they walked out of the roast duck restaurant. Honey, don't you think what we did was a little too immoral? They'll probably curse us behind our backs. Qin Chu smiled but didn't say anything. In the afternoon, Huamin and Qin Chu returned to GK headquarters. Qin Chu was on official business, so Huamin casually strolled around. Then he ran into Annie Liang, whom he hadn't seen in a while. She had just accepted an endorsement deal for a certain cell phone. She was shooting a 5-minute commercial for the cell phone, and a dozen or so people were busying themselves. When Huamin walked in, everyone immediately greeted him. A young lady. Huamin nodded at her. Annie Liang immediately walked over and handed her a bottle of green tea. A young lady, have some water. Thank you. Huamin received the green tea and looked at it casually. A young lady, I haven't seen you in the company for a long time. Yes, I've been quite busy recently. How are you? I heard that the company has accepted many endorsements for you. Yes, there's a mobile phone, 2 new clothes for next spring and a mobile game. That's not bad. Work hard. Thank you, a young lady. Oh right, a young lady. Do you have some history with Zhang Linyue? Annie Liang suddenly asked. A little. Huamin didn't avoid the topic. I signed with the company because of her. One of her cousins is a friend of mine. I don't know much about her, but a few days ago she kept calling me, asking me to talk to her and ask her to come back to work here. But, I don't really care about personal grudges. Plus, I think a young lady is smart, so there must be a reason for you to transfer her away. That's why I haven't agreed to her request. I think it's because she's not very sensible and it's making a young lady feel bad. She's not very sensible, Huamin slowly said as he took a sip of his green tea. A young lady, don't worry, I'm not someone who forgets my roots. Since you're willing to give me a chance to make a name for myself, I naturally won't help those boring people. A young lady, please don't think of me as the same person because of those people. I'm not on the same path as them. I just want to make money for the company. Okay. Huamin nodded. Annie Liang's meaning was obvious. She wanted Huamin to know that although she was introduced to the company by Jiang Linyue, she didn't have a good relationship with Jiang Linyue. Therefore she hoped that Huamin wouldn't take his anger out on her. The truth was Annie Liang was overthinking things. Huamin had almost forgotten about Jiang Linyue's existence. Ever since Song Yisher came back, Huamin finally saw what a true master was like. That woman was a ruthless character who could kill without leaving a trace, but she always liked to play the role of a little lamb. At 6 p.m. Qin Chu got off work as usual, and the two of them drove back to Sky Blessing Court. Huamian wanted to expose the rumors of a divorce in front of her mother. Yang Mirong was immediately relieved when she saw that the two of them were as loving as ever. She even prepared dinner for them. When they got home after dinner, it was actually snowing. This was the first snowfall in this city since the beginning of winter. The snowflakes were huge and they slowly drifted down. In front of South Hill Manor, Qin Chu parked his Maybach and got out of the car with Huamin. What beautiful snowflakes! Huamin looked up at the sky, and the white snow in the night added a romantic touch to the scene. Qin Chu held onto Huamin's hand and slowly said, "They all say that when it snows, you should go out with the person you like, because if you're not careful, you won't be able to grow old together." Upon hearing this, Huamin turned around to look at Qin Chu. His tall figure stood in front of him, covered in snow. "Mr. Qin, can I invite you to go out with me for a walk?" Huamin asked with a smile. Chapter 966. Then I'll reluctantly agree, Mrs. Qin. Qin Chu lovingly patted her head. Just like that, the two of them didn't enter the house. Instead, they turned around and strolled around South Hill Manor in the snow. 7 years had passed and it snowed a lot every winter here. However, Huamin had never felt as artistic as he did today. Perhaps it was because the people around him were different. Qin Chu held her hand and his palm was still warm. Like an old couple, they quietly walked in the snow. Even if they didn't say anything, they wouldn't feel awkward. In the depths of their love, Huamin took out his phone and took a selfie with Qin Chu's face. The two of them were wearing white winter clothes, and in such a snowy day, they captured the most beautiful moment. Then Huamin sent a WeChat message. "If you don't leave me, I'll be with you until the end of my life." Huamin's Photoshop skills were terrible, and every time he took a photo he would whiten it and post it. Therefore the two of them looked very similar in person. However, because of their good looks, it made sense no matter how the photo was taken. "Wow sis, you and brother-in-law are so good-looking," Jixing commented from New Zealand. "Although you're obviously trying to suck up to me, I like it very much," Huamin jokingly replied. "Don't miss this. Everyone take a look. The Qin clan couple is abusing single people again," Gao Ran said. "I'm dying of jealousy. I'm dying of jealousy." This phrase is from 3 years ago, right? Zhu Lingling asked. "You're jealous, right? What? Aren't you going to ask Mr. Gao to say the same to you?" Huamin replied. Gao Ran immediately sensibly replied to Zhu Lingling, "If you don't leave me, I'll definitely die." "Fuck off," Zhu Lingling cursed without hesitation. This pair of clowns really brought a lot of joy to Huamin. At this moment, Jiang Shaowei commented below, "Do you want to skip the wedding with us on New Year's Day? I don't think you two have done it before." "There's no hurry. We're already legal. We don't care about formalities." Huamin smiled. "So, are you going to hold the 1-month-old celebration and the wedding together after your little bun is born?" Jiang Shaowei asked. "That's a good idea. I'll think about it." It was rare for Huamin to be in such a good mood. He took out his phone and replied while reading aloud to Qin Chu. The two of them walked in the snow for a very long time. When Jiang Shaowei was commenting, she was actually in the villa, eating hot pot with Su Yu, Tang Chuan and Wei Liao. Everyone suggested having hot pot, but it was snowing outside and Jiang Shaowei didn't like to move. In the end, the three men decided to give in to her, so they ate at Wei Liao's villa. This was Wei Liao's private villa. Originally, they were going to buy a new place for their wedding, but Jiang Shaowei liked this place. So they temporarily stayed here. There were 2 maids, a driver and a gardener at home. Overall, everything was standard. Wei Liao went to the nearby supermarket and bought a lot of hot pot ingredients. The 4 of them sat around the fireplace and ate hot pot. The atmosphere was originally quite beautiful. However, after Huamin sent him a WeChat message, Su Yu obviously fell silent. Xiaowei's phone was the most advanced 6P model on the market. It had a huge screen. When she put it on the table so you happened to see it, he originally thought that it was a selfie taken by Huamin, so he grabbed the phone and took a look. However, after he saw it, he silently put the phone down. His depressed expression was obvious. Ahem, you're just looking for trouble, Tang Chuan coughed lightly. Since this topic was brought up, Jiang Xiaowei interrupted. Actually, don't be fooled by how cold-blooded Huamin is. She seems like she doesn't care about anything, but deep down she cares a lot about the people and things she cares about. Qin Chu is someone she set her mind on when she was young. Although they've been on and off all these years and their path hasn't been easy, the good thing is that they've persevered. They've faced all kinds of uncertainties in the outside world, but I think it's not easy. After all, she's only 24 years old. No one can expect her to be as calm and mature as a middle-aged woman. However, the person that Huamin set her mind on should be very lucky because she's a typical stubborn person. If she likes someone, she'll like him for the rest of her life. Jiang Xiaowei's words made the originally depressed Suyu even more depressed. He put down his chopsticks, picked up the beer beside him and took a big gulp. Slightly, do you want some fish balls? I'll get you one. Wei Liao wanted Jiang Xiaowei to change the topic. However, she suddenly turned to look at Suyu and asked, so, aren't you tired of your one-sided love for Huamin? Especially when you see that she's deeply in love with someone else, do you really not want to give up? Chapter 967. Slightly. Wei Liao seemed to want to stop her. Lord Su's heart was already hurting enough, but Jiang Xiaowei's words unintentionally stabbed Suyu in the heart. Don't interrupt, let Suyu answer. He's a man, you don't have to protect him like you protect a woman, Jiang Xiaowei said word by word. Ahem. Sis-in-law, you're mighty and domineering. Tang Chuan gave her a thumbs up. Suyu raised his head and slowly said, of course I'm tired. I'm not Jesus, I'm not that pretentious. Sometimes I feel like giving without expecting anything in return is stupid. Of course I want Huamin to be by my side, but it's not that simple. I like her and it's my own business. I didn't cause her any trouble and I didn't force myself to interfere or ruin her relationship. I think I'm being magnanimous. Plus, to be honest, when I fell in love with her, I didn't know she was married. No one wants to be a third party and I, Suyu, don't lack women, so I don't have to think about a married woman. But the problem is that my heart has to be obedient. I've told myself more than once that I should give up because I don't stand a chance. But I realized that every time I made up my mind, my heart would hurt even more. In the end, I decided to like her openly. You all know that I like Huamin, the whole world knows that I like her and she knows that I like her. This is good. Even though she doesn't belong to me, my love isn't cheap and it's not perverted. At least I've never thought of taking advantage of her, and at least I've never racked my brains to ruin her relationship, right? After Suyu finished speaking, the other three fell silent. What he said was the truth. Then Suyu continued, actually, you guys don't have to sympathize with me or pity me. I think it's really rare to find someone who can make you forget yourself and fall in love with her. Not everyone is lucky enough to meet someone like that. So, even if Huamin and I don't have anything to do with each other, I'll still feel good. That's all really. I don't ask for too much, that's all. I'm already satisfied. Once in a while he would see her and pay attention to the words she wrote on Weibo. He would also hear about her through his friends. That was good. Suyu felt that people shouldn't be too greedy. She would give him what he deserved and he shouldn't force what he shouldn't. So this was it. He was convinced that the heavens were playing with him on purpose, arranging this fatal encounter for him. Lord Su. Tang Chuan's eyes were filled with tears. Even a man like him was moved to tears. Don't fucking mess with me. I'm not going to die. Let's drink, let's drink. Suyu smiled bitterly, picked up the beer bottle and continued to drink with Tang Chuan and the others. Jiang Xiaowei didn't have the same arrogance as before. She didn't say anything. To be honest, she wanted to take the opportunity to persuade Suyu to give up. However, after he said what he said, she felt that it made sense. As long as it didn't endanger Huamin's interests, it wasn't wrong for him to like her. Also, forcing Suyu to forget Huamin's words was a little cruel. Jiang Xiaowei looked at the screen on her phone. Huamin was smiling happily beside Qin Chu. After 7 years, Qin Chu was still able to find Huamin. To them, this was already the greatest gift from God. After Gao Ran watched a movie with Zhu Lingling, they went shopping for a while. Zhu Lingling was a typical shopaholic. She never went shopping empty-handed. Even if she didn't buy anything, she would force herself to buy some underwear home. This had become a bad habit. That was why she didn't have much savings these years. In Wanda Plaza, the two strolled around casually after watching a movie. There's a new model. Looks good. Zhu Lingling stood in front of a luxury bag and looked at a long wallet. Although it was just a wallet, the price tag was as high as 10,800 yuan. She already had more than N bags, more than Huamin. However, she still kept on buying. As long as it was within her means, Huamin called her a bag addict. "Waiter, wrap this up," Gao Ran said as he reached for his wallet. No, I don't need you. I'll do it myself." Zhu Lingling immediately took out her wallet. To be honest, she didn't want Gao Ran to pay at all. Chapter 968. "No use mine," Gao Ran insisted. The two of them were in a stalemate when the waitress tactfully took Gao Ran's ICBC card. It was Gao Ran's salary card. "Let this gentleman do it." The waitress smiled and took the card from Gao Ran's hand. Damn it. This whole thing. Zhu Lingling felt extremely awkward. Cough. "Stinky cop, I really can't let you spend money. When we ate the roast duck today, you already spent more than $700. Those two bastards were obviously super rich, but they ran away after eating. They must be drunk. We can't afford to hurt them." Zhu Lingling jokingly complained about how Huamin and Qin Chu ran away after eating. Gao Ran chuckled. "It's okay, I'll go to Boss Qin's house and get a bottle of good wine. It's worth a year of my salary." "I already said that your salary is low. Can you stop pretending? It's okay, it's only 10,000 yuan. 2 months' salary is enough." Gao Ran was too embarrassed to tell her his salary. As the captain of the criminal police, his salary was indeed only 5,000 yuan. Civil servants seemed to be very popular, but their actual salary was very low. If Zhu Lingling flew a few long flights, she would earn more than 20,000 yuan a month. In conclusion, the stewardess completely outshone him, a public servant. "Oh my, you make it sound so pitiful." It's only half a month's salary. Let me do it." Zhu Lingling turned around and was about to walk towards the cashier, but Gao Ran grabbed her by the collar and pulled her back. "Calm down, it's not easy for me to give you something. Just take it. I'm so stingy, who knows when I'll give you something next time." After hearing what Gao Ran said, Zhu Lingling was actually quite happy. Gao Ran wasn't stingy at all. His family was also very rich. It was just that he was quite frugal. His colleagues were all from ordinary families, so he never pretended to be rich. His salary was enough for him to spend. Because he ate and lived at home, the company also subsidized him. Therefore, he didn't spend much of his annual salary. He still had enough money to buy a bag for Zhu Lingling. After buying the bags, the two of them walked out and got into Gao Ran's Jaguar. "You have a shift tomorrow, right? I'll send you back." Gao Ran said. "You're going back so early?" Zhu Lingling seemed a little disappointed. "What else can we do? Are you really planning to go to a small hotel with me?" Gao Ran teased with a smile. "Get lost. Who wants to go to a motel with you? I was just trying to piss off Qin Chu and the others. In the end, Mr. Qin almost played us both." Gao Ran sighed. "Yeah, that's why Qin Chu is not only arrogant, but he's also two-faced. Only someone as smart as Huamian can deal with him. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to keep up with his thoughts. Yeah, they're like turtles looking at green beans." Gao Ran cursed as he vented his anger. "Ha!" Zhu Lingling laughed like a demon. When Gao Ran started the car, he casually put it in gear and accidentally touched Zhu Lingling's hand. The moment their skin touched, sparks flew everywhere. Zhu Lingling felt as if she was burned by something, so she immediately pulled her hand back nervously. Gao Ran also felt a little awkward, so he immediately pulled his hand back. The atmosphere became even more awkward. Zhu Lingling looked out the car window. Just like Huamin, she deliberately changed the topic. "It's snowing, the snowflakes are so beautiful." Gao Ran nodded silently. "Yeah, there are several types of snowflakes." "Really?" Zhu Lingling asked in surprise. "Yeah, there's snowflake raw wheat, snowflake pure life, snowflake silver, snowflake brave to the end of the world, and snowflake big green bottle." "Gao Ran, you piece of shit." Zhu Lingling glared at him angrily. It was such a romantic moment, but it was shattered by his comical spirit. "You're the fucking captain of the city's criminal police department? I really think you're a clown sent by monkeys," Zhu Lingling scolded. Late at night, in an abandoned factory in the suburbs, A middle-aged man with a scar on his face stared at a photo for a long time. The photo was of a pretty woman wearing a white lab coat and glasses. You look good and you're young. Too bad. There are too many people who want you dead. The scarred man smiled coldly. Chapter 969. The next morning, after resting leisurely for 2 days, Huamian finally returned to work. When Huamin arrived at Southside in the morning, he immediately went to see Ni Yang in the VIP room because he had just undergone a liver transplant. Xia Wan, who had donated her liver, was also receiving treatment in the next room. As for Shuai Shuai, Huamin hired a cook to take care of him. How's he doing? Huamin asked his manager, Sister Ingzi, who was standing guard at the door. A young lady. Ni Yang's surgery went very well. The chief surgeon said that he'll be under observation after he wakes up. If everything goes well, he'll be discharged in half a month. After he's discharged, GK won't accept any jobs for him for 3 months. He can occasionally take photos, appear on magazine covers, or do interviews. During these 3 months, let Ni Yang recover and don't worry about his popularity falling. GK will let him attend many events. Thank you, a young lady, you're so thoughtful. Sister Ingzi smiled slowly. Huamin didn't want to interfere with GK Film and Television's business, but he took extra care of Ni Yang. He was just like Jixin, as heartwarming as his little brother. Plus, Ni Yang was much more pitiful than Jixin. It wasn't easy for him to become an idol. Ni Yang was still in a deep sleep. Huamin gave a few instructions to the nurses and then went to Xiaowan's room next door. She was fine. She had just woken up and her complexion was a little pale. The nurse was giving her an anti-inflammatory injection. Dr. Hua, Xiaowan said, looking haggard. Miss Xia, how are you feeling? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Xiaowan gently shook her head. No, I'm fine. It's good. Ni Yang, how is he? She asked worriedly. He's fine, the surgery went smoothly. Don't worry. Okay, that's good. Upon hearing this, Xiaowan felt as if a rock had been lifted from her heart. Don't worry about Shuai Shuai, I've already hired a maid to cook for him, wash his clothes and take care of him. Just stay here and rest, he'll come see you after school, Huamin reminded her. Okay. Then rest well, if you need anything ask the nurses to call me. Okay. Huamin paid for Xiaowan's son. Shuai Shuai's kidney transplant as well as Ni Yang's hospital. He didn't touch the Hua Foundation, nor did he report it to GK. Instead he quietly took out millions of yuan. Because she felt that it was worth it. She wasn't a busybody, but since she was going to do it, she had to do it until the end. Zhu Lingling had asked her before that Ni Yang was very rich himself, so there was no need for her to pay for the surgery. Huamian Hua and Hua to treat him like a little brother. Huamian Hua wasn't just talking about siblings. Most of the time she had to put herself in Huamian's shoes. If you treat me well, I'll return the favor 10 times over. Ni Yang once stubbornly gave up on Imperial Star and signed with GK, which caused a huge uproar. This was a rare incident in the entertainment industry. Ni Yang was at the peak of his career, and he could have rejected Huamin's invitation. However, he didn't. He stepped up at the critical moment and helped Huamin resolve the crisis. Huamin would always remember Huamin's kindness. When she returned to her office, her assistant said, Dr. Hua, someone wants to see you. Okay, let him in. Huamin sat in her office, turned on her computer and got ready to receive patients. Just then a middle-aged man in his 30s walked in. He was wearing a black down jacket and there was a hideous scar on the left side of his face. Hello, were you feeling unwell? Huamin asked in a formal tone. Dr. Huamin, right? The man stared at Huamin's face and asked faintly. I am. Huamin looked up and saw the man looking at her strangely. Before she could say anything, the man suddenly covered her mouth and nose with a white handkerchief. Everything happened so quickly that Huamin didn't even have time to think before she fainted. 5 minutes later, a middle-aged man with a scar on his face and a white lab coat walked out of Southside Recuperation Center with a giant woven bag in his hand. Chapter 970. Dr. Hua, there's another patient who's registered with you, but there's only 10 minutes left before lunch break. Do you still want to see her? Or do you want to see her in the afternoon? Reminded the assistant as she knocked on the door. Dr. Hua. The young nurse raised her voice and asked again, but there was still no response. She walked in curiously and pushed the door open. There was no one in the room. Huh. That's not right. Dr. Hu shouldn't have left the consultation room. The young nurse was very puzzled. She was on duty at the consultation desk, so she had to pass by here to receive patients. She didn't see Dr. Hu go downstairs or go upstairs. She was still there when the last patient came in. How could she disappear into thin air in less than 10 minutes? The young nurse found it very strange. She picked up her phone and called Huamin's number. Sorry, the number you have dialed is switched off. Huamin's phone was switched off. Huh. Her phone is switched off. Could it be out of battery? The young nurse walked to the consultation desk in confusion. She looked at the other nurses and asked, "Did any of you see Dr. Hua?" "Oh. No. What's wrong?" "She's gone." "Gone? That can't be. Did she go downstairs to eat in the cafeteria?" "No, if she went downstairs I would definitely see her here." The assistant shook her head. "Could she have changed into casual clothes to eat with her friends? That's why you didn't notice?" "I don't think so. If Dr. Hua went out she would definitely tell me because she's not done seeing patients. Dr. Hua isn't an irresponsible person. She wouldn't leave the patient alone and go out to eat." The assistant had been working for Huamin for more than a month. She seemed to understand her work attitude. "He can't just disappear like that, right? Don't worry, it'll be fine. Make an announcement. Southside is so big. If Dr. Hua hears it she'll definitely come back." "Okay." Then the assistant ran to the hospital's broadcasting room and the broadcaster broadcasted 3 consecutive messages. "Dr. Huamin from the neurology department, please return to the office immediately if you hear this. Dr. Huamin from the neurology department. If you can hear me, please come back to your office as soon as possible. Your assistant is looking for you. All colleagues please pay attention. If you see Dr. Huamin from the Department of Neurology, please call her back to her office." The broadcast repeated 3 times but there was still no sign of Huamin. More than an hour had passed and the afternoon working hours had already begun. There was already a long line of people waiting to register. However, there was still no sign of Huamin, which made the assistant nurse very anxious. "Director Lee, you're finally here." The assistant nurse immediately rushed up to the director of the neurology department when she saw him. "What happened?" Director Lee frowned slightly. "Dr. Hua is missing." The young nurse was frantic. "Gone? How did she go missing? Tell me in detail." Director Lee knew that Huamin wasn't an irresponsible person. If she had something to do she would have asked for leave from her. She wouldn't have left without a word. Then the young nurse told her what happened. Director Lee, who was experienced and knowledgeable, also felt that something wasn't right. She turned around and said to her assistant, "Xiaoyi, go to the surveillance room and check the surveillance footage of Dr. Hua's office corridor. See if she went out. There's no way a person would disappear into thin air. I feel like something isn't right." "Okay, Director Lee." 20 minutes later, Director Lee's assistant jogged back. "How is it?" Director Lee asked. "Director. Oh no, I can't get the footage you wanted." "You can't? What do you mean?" Director Lee was slightly surprised. Chapter 971. I don't know what's going on, but since 10 a.m. this morning my security footage started to malfunction. All the cameras stopped working and I couldn't get the footage from Dr. Hua's office. What a coincidence. Director Lee felt that something was wrong. "What should we do now, Director? Did something happen to Dr. Hua?" Huamin's assistant was so worried that she was about to cry. After being a nurse for so long, this was the first time she had seen a doctor disappear. It was too strange. "Call the police. I think this is a bit strange." Director Lee pushed up her glasses and said in a serious tone. "If we call the police, I think the police won't file a case if a person disappears within 24 hours. Director Lee's assistant reminded her. "It's different. Dr. Hua has a special identity, so the police won't ignore him. Call the police." Then Director Lee looked at Huamin's assistant and said, "Go to GK headquarters and notify Dr. Hua's lover, Mr. Qin Chu." "Okay, Director Lee." GK headquarters. Qin Chu had been looking at the 3D layout of the New Year's party in his office. Because GK was a big company, its every move was watched. Every year, other companies in the industry would fight to imitate the benefits, guests and theme of the party. Therefore he couldn't be careless this time. About an hour ago his right eyelid started twitching crazily. There was a saying that the twitching of the left eye brought fortune, while the twitching of the right eye brought disaster. His right eye started twitching crazily without warning. He felt like it was a bad omen. Although he wasn't a superstitious person, he still felt uneasy for some reason. His finger left the mouse and he picked up his phone to send a WeChat message. "Honey, are you still busy? Have you had lunch?" He didn't get a reply for a long time, so he anxiously called her again. "Sorry, the number you have dialed is currently unavailable. It's off." Chin Chu raised his eyebrows and his expression became serious. Huamin rarely turned off his phone during the day, and when it ran out of battery, his assistant would charge it for him. Unless there was something special. He picked up his phone and called Huamin's office, but no one picked up. Did he go to a restaurant for lunch? Is his phone charging? Chin Chu comforted himself. Just then there was an urgent knock on the door. "Come in." "President Chin, the assistant from young Madam's Southside Recuperation Center, is here. He said he has something urgent to discuss with you," Little Yang said as he opened the door. "Let her in." Chin Chu had a strong premonition that Huamian's assistant was here. Did something really happen to her? The more he thought about it, the more uneasy he felt. "Hello, President Chin. I'm Dr. Hua's assistant, Xiao Ning. Director Li asked me to tell you that Dr. Hua is missing." "What do you mean?" Chin Chu's heart skipped a beat. Something bad had indeed happened. "Well, Dr. Hua disappeared into thin air from the hospital. We searched everywhere but couldn't find her, and the surveillance cameras are broken. Young Lady Li said that something might have happened and we've already called the police. Young Lady Li asked me to tell you." "When did this happen?" Chin Chu asked, his face pale. "About an hour ago." "Did she see anyone suspicious before she disappeared?" Chin Chu continued to ask calmly. "Here's the thing, Mr. Chin. Dr. Hua saw a man who was registered with her." Then the assistant roughly explained the situation to Chin Chu. He lowered his head and pondered for about 10 seconds. He repeatedly thought about the flaws in the situation, and then he slowly raised his head and asked, "Do you remember what the last patient Dr. Hua saw looked like?" Chapter 972. "I can't remember, but I know it was a man. He kept his head down when he walked, so I didn't see him clearly." The assistant tried her best to recall, but she couldn't remember anything. There were a lot of patients and she had been busy the entire time. "Okay, I got it. You can go now." "President Chin, do you think something will happen to Dr. Hua?" the assistant asked worriedly. "I won't let anything happen to her," Chin Chu said word for word. After the assistant left, Chin Chu's heart sank to the bottom. He was sure that Huamin had been kidnapped, and the kidnapper was the last male patient they saw. However, the bad thing was that they had tampered with the hospital's surveillance cameras, so no one noticed what the kidnapper looked like. However, he was sure that these people came prepared. They were here to kidnap Huamin and their target was her. "Yang. Sir, what are your orders?" "Cancel all of my plans for the afternoon. I need to go out, sir." After walking out of GK headquarters, Chin Chu immediately called Gao Ran. "Locate Huamin's number for me right now, the sooner the better." "Ha, what's wrong? Are you trying to catch me in the act?" Gao Ran jokingly asked back. Huamin was kidnapped. Chin Chu was in a bad mood and his voice was deeper than usual. "What? Kidnapping?" Gao Ran was also dumbfounded when he heard this. Chin Chu didn't say anything. "Chu, you're not joking, are you?" Gao Ran couldn't believe it. How could Huamin be kidnapped? "I wouldn't joke about something like that," Chin Chu replied seriously. Indeed, Chin Chu could joke about a lot of things, but he would never joke about Huamin's safety. To Chin Chu this was taboo. "Then, don't worry, I'll give you the location now." After speaking, Gao Ran immediately hung up the phone. Chin Chu was restless for the first time. He did not know who had kidnapped Huamin, nor did he know where they had taken him. Would he be hurt? Would he be beaten up? In short, from the moment he found out that Huamin had gone missing, he was already being dismembered every second. Chin Chu sat in the Maybach and smoked one cigarette after another. He never believed in gods. He only believed in himself. But this time he panicked. He was scared. He had already magnified his fear to the extreme. He did not dare to imagine what would happen to him if he lost Huamin. He ruthlessly crushed the cigarette but with his fingers. He looked ahead in despair. "If there really are gods in this world, then I hope you can listen to me. Don't let anything happen to Mion. Otherwise, I will find her even if I have to go to hell. All of Qin Chu's years of calmness, wisdom and arrogance had collapsed at this moment. All that was left was a husband who had lost his beloved wife. His eyes were filled with despair and helplessness. When Huamin woke up again, she found that her eyes were covered with blindfolds. Her hands and hands were tied with strong ropes. "Where am I? Is anyone here?" she asked. "You're awake." It was a man's voice. She immediately recognized that it was the male patient she had just received. His voice was very strange and easy to recognize. "It's you? You're not my patient?" "Dr. Horse sure has a good memory." The man chuckled in a low voice. "Who are you? Why did you kidnap me? Do you want a ransom? How much?" After analyzing the fact that she had been kidnapped, Huamin no longer panicked. Kidnapping was for money, so she planned to deal with them slowly. "Ransom? You know, we've already taken someone's money. This time our mission is to kill you." Upon hearing this, Huamin's heart sank. Not wanting money was the worst. This was probably the scariest kidnapper, right? But not now, because we still have a mission to complete. After speaking, the kidnapper dialed a number and handed it to Huamin's ear. "Tell your husband not to call the police. If he doesn't want you to die, tell him to come alone," the knife-scarred man said viciously. Chapter 973. As soon as the scar-faced man finished speaking, the call went through. "Hello?" Qin Chu's familiar voice came from the other end. Hearing Qin Chu's voice, Huamin suddenly wanted to cry. However, she didn't say anything, not a single word. Because from what the kidnappers said, they didn't want money or ransom, they only wanted her life. Now they wanted her to call Qin Chu for only one reason, and that was to take Qin Chu's life. It was one thing for her to be captured, but she definitely wouldn't drag Mr. Qin down with her. "Speak," the scar-faced man roared fiercely. On the other end of the line, Qin Chu's heart was in his throat. "Mian, is that you?" he asked gently, just wanting to make sure that she was still alive. Huamin bit her lips and didn't say a word, because if she spoke, Qin Chu would definitely come. "Bitch, speak." The scar-faced man slapped Huamin across the face. Her fair cheeks immediately flushed red. Because he used too much force, dark red blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. Even so, Huamin still didn't say a word. "Are you a fucking mute? I told you to speak to him." The scar-faced man had a bad temper and he kicked Huamin in the stomach again. Immediately, she felt a tearing pain in her lower abdomen. If she was a normal girl, she would probably be crying by now. However, Huamin still didn't make a sound. Even though she was kicked to the ground and her body was in extreme pain, she still didn't make a sound. She bit her lips with all her might, because she knew that once Qin Chu heard her voice, he would do everything in his power to save her. If she didn't make a sound, Qin Chu wouldn't be able to confirm if she was really here, so he wouldn't come so easily. Perhaps he would even discuss a plan with Gao Ran. That way it wouldn't be so dangerous. Her mind spun quickly, but she didn't say a word. "Boss, this woman is too stubborn. She didn't say anything even after being beaten up like this. I guess she doesn't want her husband to take the risk, right?" one of the men said. Seeing how stubborn she was, the scarred man did not waste any more time and picked up the phone from the ground. "Mr. Qin, is it? Your wife is in my hands now. How much do you want?" Qin Chu asked directly and calmly. It's not a matter of money now. I'm just taking someone's money to solve their problem. How about this? You come here but don't call the police. Come alone. You and my employer can settle your personal grudge. If you don't come, we're going to dismember your wife tonight. From tomorrow onwards, you'll receive her body parts one after another. Don't touch her. I'll agree to any request." Okay, Mr. Qin is so straightforward. "Time? Where?" Qin Chu asked. "We'll let you know later." After speaking, the scarred man hung up the phone. Then he kicked Huamin's body. "Stupid woman, you're quite the character. You're really stubborn. But unfortunately, you're my employer's #1 enemy. I took the money, so I had to do it. How much did they pay you?" "We'll pay you 3 times, Huamin said weakly as she lay on the ground. Do you think we don't have morals in this line of work? Let me tell you, we only work for one employer. If we always betrayed our employer, how could we survive in this world for so long? We know you're rich, but I'm sorry, we've already taken someone else's money. You can only blame your own bad luck. Brothers, let's go eat." Then the sound of footsteps gradually left. Huamin lay in the abandoned factory. Because it was late winter, her body was emitting cold air. When she was kidnapped, she was only wearing a thin white lab coat. Gusts of bone-piercing cold wind blew past her, freezing her entire body. She didn't want to think about who wanted to deal with her. Instead, she prayed silently in her heart that Qin Chu wouldn't come alone. Otherwise, the two of them could die here. After Qin Chu received the call from the kidnappers, he felt much better. At least they were willing to contact him. At this time, Gao Ran called again. Chu, I've located Huamin's cell phone. Where is it? Qin Chu asked anxiously. Chapter 974. He's on the 4006 freeway. I've already sent people there, but they only found the phone. They didn't see Huamin, so I suspect that the kidnappers are trying to distract us. Okay, I got it. Chu, have the kidnappers contacted you yet? Under normal circumstances, they'll contact the kidnappers' families within 8 hours to ask for the ransom. Gao Ran asked tentatively. I haven't contacted them yet. Qin Chu knew that he wouldn't say anything. After all, he didn't want to take any risks. What if the kidnappers were angered by the police and killed the hostage? If that happened, it would be too late for regrets. Therefore, he didn't tell Gao Ran the truth. Okay, don't worry. I'll mobilize all the police forces to investigate. We'll also check all the suspicious vehicles on the 4006 freeway. Okay. After hanging up the phone, Qin Chu took out another cigarette and lit it. Then he stared at his phone. He was waiting for the kidnappers to give him the address. Qin Chu had contacted Wu Zhongxing about Huamin's disappearance, so he didn't want the hospital to spread the news and suppressed it. He was afraid that the media would be alerted and Huamin would be in even more danger if that happened. However, other people didn't know, but Hua Xiqian did. He had invested so much money into Southside and established the Hua Foundation. There was no way that he didn't have the right to know. Also, he had spies at Southside. The nurse he planted would constantly report to him about Huamin. When he received the news that Huamin was missing, Hua Xiqian was having lunch with a client. President Hua, Dr. Hua is missing. The nurse sent him a WeChat message. Hua Xiqian's smiling face instantly turned cold. What's the matter? He asked. Some say that Dr. Hua was taken away by aliens, and that it's too scary for him to disappear into thin air. Some say that Dr. Hua might be dead. Someone killed him and hid his body in our hospital. Anyway, we can't find him. Coincidentally, the surveillance cameras are also broken. President Wu didn't allow anyone to talk about this, but Dr. Hua's husband already knows about it. Right, I got it. After replying, Hua Xiqian stood up gracefully. Mr. Lu, I'm sorry. I have some urgent matters to attend to. Let's talk another day. After that, Hua Xiqian walked out of the restaurant and drove straight to Southside. Inside President Wu's office, Hua Xiqian and President Wu talked for a while, then walked out with a serious expression. He went straight to the Municipal Public Security Bureau and told them to retrieve all the surveillance cameras outside Southside Recuperation Center. The cameras in the Recuperation Center were broken, but that didn't mean that the cameras outside were all broken. President Hua, it's very difficult to check the cars one by one, the police officer reminded him. If it's not difficult, why would I need you? Hua Xiqian asked coldly. The police officer was deflated and didn't say anything else. Everyone said that Mr. Hua had a good temper and was the most amiable person, but that wasn't the case. Hua Xiqian's attitude today was particularly irritable. Huamin's disappearance had left him in no mood to do anything. He usually thought that everything about Huamin was under his control. Now that she was out of his control, he was panicking. If something happened to the girl, he would be sad for the rest of his life. He didn't even dare to imagine how it would feel to never see Huamin again. Qin Chu drove to the lobby of Seductive Fox. Inside the office on the top floor, Rick looked guilty. Qin, I'm sorry. You asked me to protect Huamin and I thought it would be fine on the road. I didn't expect her to be kidnapped in the hospital. It's my fault. It's not your fault. The people who kidnapped her had a very careful plan. We couldn't guard against them. I've already sent people to investigate. Don't worry, I'm sure we'll have news soon. No need. I plan to solve this myself. Qin Chu placed his hands on his knees, his face unusually calm. No, these people are definitely vicious. They won't just let her go after taking the money. Rick was born into a criminal family and had seen all kinds of storms. He also knew that kidnappers were all outlaws. Very few hostages made it back alive, so Huamin was in a very dangerous situation. Whether or not she could make it back alive was already a problem. How could she get Chinchu involved? I didn't tell anyone about this. I only trust you. I came to you because I need you to help me with one thing. If I don't make it back, remember to sell GK as fast as you can and help my parents immigrate to Hawaii. They'll be under my uncle. What are you talking about? Are you saying your last words? Rick's heart sank. Chapter 975. I'm just telling you what to do just in case. Before Chinchu could finish, Rick mercilessly interrupted him. There's no just in case. I believe you'll come back. I'll do my best. I have to bring her back. After leaving Seductive Fox, no one knew where Chinchu went. Rick was in a bad mood. He stood up and opened the window, letting the cold wind blow in. After knowing Chinchu for so long, he knew how much he cared about his wife. She was the woman he loved since he was young. He lived his life on the edge of a knife so he might never experience that kind of feeling again. He thought he wouldn't, but he didn't know that fate had its own plan. Boss, I found out what you asked me to investigate last time. The girl's name is Nyelingsi. Her nickname is Cece. She's a photography student at the Academy of Art. Cece. He immediately reached out his finger and gently swiped it across the frosted window. There was a faint smile on his face. Huasichin used all of his connections in one day. However, he didn't find a single clue. He had to admit that Huamin's kidnappers weren't ordinary people. They were a group of very professional kidnappers. To be able to enter the hospital in broad daylight and take her away without anyone noticing, they were really something. Huasichin was extremely frustrated. He walked out of the police station and got into his white Maserati. After 3 seconds of silence, he suddenly slammed his hand on the steering wheel. He was trying to vent his pent-up emotions. How could they lose a living person like that? What the hell? Huasichin cursed. Then he suddenly thought of someone. He picked up his phone and dialed. Suyu was in a meeting at Imperial Star's headquarters. All of the department heads were reporting on their performance over the past 6 months. Suyu was wearing a rare light blue suit. It was fashionable and handsome. On his bronze wrist he wore a $1 million Patek Philippe watch. On his left ear he wore a dark blue gemstone, mysterious and regal. When he saw Huasichin's call, he didn't pick it up. Instead he continued with the meeting and put his phone on silent mode. President Su, before New Year's Day we still have a big movie to release. It's a New Year's drama and the lead actress is our A-list actress, Miss Jian Tong. I'm sure we'll earn more than 1 billion yuan at the box office. Suyu listened quietly. Just then Huasichin sent her a WeChat message. Huamin has been kidnapped. Although it was only a few short words, Suyu felt as if he had been struck by lightning when he finished reading them. He quickly stood up with his phone in hand. President Su? All the executives were dumbfounded. Dismissed. Without giving anyone a chance to speak, Suyu turned around and walked out. His assistant, Shaoan, followed behind him, silently following his footsteps. He walked out of the conference room and immediately called Huasichin. What happened to Huamin? He asked anxiously. Kidnapped. Around 10 this morning. Where? South Side Sanatorium. Who are the kidnappers? I don't know, we couldn't find any clues. They tampered with the hospital's surveillance footage. This was a premeditated kidnapping, Huasichin explained. Does Chinchu know? Suyu asked again. He does, and he's trying to save Huamin. But the problem is, no one knows where she is and we don't know how to save her. Got it. After hanging up, Suyu sped to South Side and asked every single detail of what happened. Just like Huasichin, he didn't want to let go of any valuable clues. However, based on Huamin's assistant's deduction, Huamin must have been taken away by the last patient. Just like Huasichin, he began to investigate all the cars in front of the hospital. However, there were hundreds of cars parked in front of Southside, so it was really difficult to determine which one was suspicious. Suyu repeatedly looked at the surveillance footage and finally, his gaze locked onto a black Honda CR-V. Go and find out who the car owner is. Where did the car go? Suyu immediately asked the police officer beside him. Young Master Su, there's nothing special about this Honda. You didn't make a mistake, did you? The little policeman looked confused. Chapter 976. Just then someone suddenly shouted, "Boss, they're back." The scar-faced man immediately shouted, "Fatty, bring her back." "Boss." The fatty was speechless and seemed to be disappointed. However, he was helpless and didn't dare to disobey. He could only drag her back, take off her blindfold. "There's going to be a good show," the scar-faced man said with a smile. Then the fatty took off Huamin's blindfold. Only then did Huamin see that she was really in an abandoned factory. There were about 8 people in the room. Standing in the middle was the man with the scar on his face who came to her for treatment. There were 7 subordinates beside him. She looked around and didn't recognize any of them. She didn't know who sent these people. At first she suspected Song Yishur, but she immediately denied it. Because if it was Song Yishur who caught her, she would have killed her immediately. She wouldn't wait for Qin Chu to come. Song Yishur would never hurt Qin Chu. Lady Qin had the same logic. There was no need to involve her son. So later she suspected Huasiqian. She didn't know if he was the one behind it. However, Huamin felt that Huasiqian treated her quite well. He wouldn't allow these people to spread rumors. Fortunately, this fatty didn't violate her. Huamin had already thought of a countermeasure. Once she and the fatty entered that small warehouse, she would definitely persuade him to untie her. Then she would use silver needles to deal with him. She knew exactly which part of the body would go numb. Just as she was hesitating, the scar-faced man said, "Hang this woman up." "His boss." Then Huamin's body was tied with steel wires and she fell into the air. Then there was a metal bucket that was a few meters deep. It was round and big. Huamin vaguely knew what they wanted to do. She didn't want Qin Chu to come, but she also wanted Qin Chu to come. She knew that Qin Chu would be in even more danger if he came. However, if Qin Chu did not come, she might not even be able to see him for the last time. Because the people in front of him were not ordinary hooligans. They were real outlaws. What they did was a crime where they could eat bullets at any time. At this moment, the sound of footsteps approached. 2 of his subordinates walked in with Qin Chu. He was also wearing an eye mask. When he arrived, he was welcomed by the scarred man's subordinates. Only then did they bring him in. Seemed like these people were very cautious. "Go in." The person behind him gave Qin Chu a shove and he went straight into the factory. Huamin looked down at Qin Chu as he walked in. At that moment he could no longer hold back his tears. She missed him so much that she was about to go crazy. Qin Chu was only wearing a thin black cotton padded jacket today. The style was very nice, especially on him. His face was always so calm and collected. He was always calm in the face of danger, as if even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, his expression would not change. However, the moment he took off his eye mask and saw Huamin, his heart was about to break. Qin Chu raised his head and looked up. Huamin's hands were tied and she was hanging in mid-air. The white coat on his body was already stained and there were wounds on his face. There was dried blood at the corner of her mouth. Qin Chu clenched his fists tightly and looked coldly at the scarred man. "Didn't I tell you not to touch her? I'm sorry, your wife is a little stubborn. She wouldn't talk, so we had to treat her." Qin Chu's eyes turned cold. "What do you want? Speak." Qin Chu glanced at them coldly. At this moment he had already made a vow in his heart. Today no one here would leave this place alive because he was going to start a massacre. When the scarred man heard Qin Chu's question, he sneered and threw a dagger at his feet. "Here to show your sincerity, stab your chest." "Honey, no." Huamin was finally willing to speak for the first time. She was most afraid that Qin Chu would do anything for her. She knew too well how important she was to him. Qin Chu raised his head and looked at Huamin with an indescribable heartache. He squatted down and picked up the sharp dagger. Then he slowly pointed the tip of the dagger at himself. "Honey, I beg you, don't be so stupid. Even if you do it, they won't let us go." Huamin immediately burst into tears. Chapter 977. Seeing Qin Chu holding the dagger, he remained silent and didn't make a move. The knife-scarred man sneered and said, "Release the rope." Then with a whoosh, Huamin quickly slid down from the air and landed in a big metal bucket filled with ice water. She was about to suffocate. "Don't touch her." Qin Chu went crazy and wanted to rush up. However, 7 or 8 people stepped forward and held him back. "So, you should consider if you want to stab her, or else your wife might turn into a water ghost." The knife-scarred man smiled sinisterly. Without another word, Qin Chu stabbed the dagger directly into his chest. With a splashing sound, blood splattered everywhere. Huamin was struggling in the bucket, so she didn't see this shocking scene. Otherwise she would definitely die of heartache. Pull her up. Seeing that Qin Chu had given in, the knife-scarred man proudly ordered. One of his subordinates pulled the rope from the other side and pulled Huamin out of the bucket. Her entire body was soaked in ice water. Her hair was drenched with ice water and it was dripping down in drips. When Huamin opened her eyes and saw Qin Chu, she felt so painful that she almost couldn't breathe. Qin Chu held the dagger in his hand and stabbed it into his chest. But his body was still standing straight and didn't fall down. Huamin seemed to empathize with Qin Chu's pain. He was in pain, so she was in pain with him. "Let go of my wife," Qin Chu said weakly. The knife-scarred man clapped his hands. "You're a real man, not bad." As a fugitive, the knife-scarred man had kidnapped many people, but he had never seen a man risk his life like this for his wife. Stabbing a dagger into his chest, that was risking his life. It wasn't just a superficial wound. "You bunch of scum dogs. Why don't you just kill us and give us a quick death? Don't play dirty. You'll get your retribution." Huamin rarely used foul language to argue because she felt it was meaningless. At that time he couldn't help but curse at the knife-scarred man. "Don't worry, I will fulfill your wish and make you a pair of lovebirds. I've done everything you asked me to do. Put her down. Don't go back on your word," Qin Chu said coldly as he stared at the scarred man again. "Let that woman down." As expected, he kept his promise. In fact, he also knew that with so many people here, Huamin and Qin Chu would not be able to escape. After Huamin was put down, Qin Chu immediately rushed over and hugged her. "Honey, I've made you suffer." Qin Chu hugged Huamin with heartache. "Are you stupid? You didn't even hear my voice before you came. What if you fell into my trap?" Huamin kept crying. She didn't think that even though she didn't say anything, Qin Chu would still come. "I don't want to take any risks. I can't afford to lose." Qin Chu hugged her forehead and kissed her on the corner of his lips. That sharp knife was still stuck in his chest. What a loving couple. Too bad, they're going to meet the king of hell. The person who said this was a woman. She walked in from the other side of the factory with a tall bodyguard behind her. Huamin and Qin Chu looked over and immediately recognized this woman. She was Zhou Guangwei, Zhou Guangming's biological sister. After the Zhou family fell, they were chased out of Sea City by Qin Chu. They didn't think that she would actually come back. "Are you surprised to see me?" Zhou Guangwei was wearing a mini skirt, black stockings and a short white mink coat. He was quite pretty. In the past she even tried to seduce Qin Chu, but Qin Chu rejected her. "So it's you," Qin Chu said indifferently. "Ha, you probably didn't think that I would make a comeback so quickly. Let me tell you, I've been waiting for this day for a long time. You two bitches ruined my family. I want to kill you every single day. Finally this day has come, ha." Zhou Guanghui laughed maniacally. She was completely blinded by her hatred. Huamin suddenly understood why Rick always said that Qin Chu was too soft-hearted and merciful. He also understood why Huasiqian always liked to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. It turned out that he would leave behind a disaster for himself. Back when the Zhou family fell, Qin Chu didn't kill them. Now that they were making a comeback, they were putting them in danger. There was a saying that was true: being merciful to your enemy was being cruel to yourself. Zhou Guangwei took a gun from the bodyguard and slowly walked in front of Qin Chu and Huamin. Then she pointed the gun at Qin Chu's head. "Tell me which one of you should die first." Chapter 978. "Miss Hui, don't be impulsive. Let me do this." The scar-faced man smiled as he took the black pistol from Zhou Guanghui's hand. He was about to point it at Qin Chu's head when Qin Chu quickly stood up, grabbed the pistol and pointed it at the scar-faced man's temple. Seeing this, Huamin also reacted. In a flash, she appeared behind Zhou Guanghui with a silver needle in her hand. She pointed the needle at Zhou Guanghui's temple because it was a place that could easily kill her. "Boss, Miss Hui." His subordinate seemed to be panicking. "Back off, let us go." Qin Chu's voice was cold. The scar-faced man didn't feel good. He was too careless and didn't expect the man who was stabbed in the chest with a dagger to be so fast. To think that he could move so quickly and with such godly speed. Seeing that the scar-faced man didn't react, Qin Chu pressed the pistol against the scar-faced man's temple and increased the force. "Do you think I don't dare to shoot? Let me tell you, I can take your life at any time. I don't need to take any responsibility for killing criminals like you." Seeing that Chin Chu was ruthless, the scar-faced man was a little scared. "Move, let them go," the scar-faced man said. "Boss." His subordinates seemed to be unconvinced and eager to fight. While Huamin wasn't paying attention, Zhou Guanghui stretched out her leg and tried to threaten him. However, Huamin kicked her in the waist and then inserted a silver needle into the back of her neck. Zhou Guanghui felt a numbing sensation in her body. "What did you do to me?" She tilted her head angrily and looked at Huamin. "Don't move if you don't want to die." Huamin and Chin Chu had a tacit understanding. He knew that once Chin Chu subdued the knife-scarred man, he could not become their weakness. Therefore he also threatened Zhou Guanghui, although he didn't know what relationship Zhou Guanghui had with these outlaws. But what was certain was that these people were more afraid of her and seemed to listen to her. After the threat was successful, the subordinates retreated and made way for them. Chin Chu's chest was already soaked in blood, but fortunately there was no major bleeding. Otherwise he would definitely be unconscious. "Mian, you go first." Chin Chu glanced at Huamin. Huamin nodded and forced Zhou Guanghui to walk towards the door first. Chin Chu followed closely behind with a gun. "You bunch of trash." Zhou Guanghui cursed angrily. She was so close to getting her revenge, but now her plan was ruined. The others didn't dare to say anything. Although Huamin's entire body was in excruciating pain, she knew that this was not the time to fall. She had to walk out even if it meant risking her life. When they reached the door, the knife-scarred man suddenly pounced back with all his strength. No matter how agile Chin Chu was, he couldn't react in time because of his serious injuries. So he was immediately knocked to the ground by the knife-scarred man. "Chin Chu!" Huamin yelled with heartache. The knife-scarred man pounced over and grabbed Chin Chu's neck with one hand. His other hand held down Chin Chu's other hand. Huamin was so scared that her heart almost jumped out of her chest. She nervously watched as they wrestled. When the men saw that the fight had started, they wanted to rush forward. "Don't come over or else I'll kill her immediately." Huamin pressed a silver needle against Zhou Guanghui's neck. "You bunch of idiots, get out of my way. If anything happens to me, my godfather won't let you guys off the hook." Zhou Guanghui made a solemn vow. As expected, when she mentioned her godfather, the men didn't dare to come forward. When Huamin looked over, Chin Chu had already gained the upper hand and was kicking the knife-scarred man. The knife-scarred man covered his chest and kept rolling on the ground. Just then police sirens sounded. "Despicable. I can't believe you called the police." The knife-scarred man spat out a mouthful of blood and cursed as he lay on the ground, exhausted. Chin Chu was also slightly startled. He turned around and looked at the door. More than 10 police cars were speeding over. In reality, he didn't tell Gao Ran that he was coming. While he was still in a daze, Huamin saw the knife-scarred man behind Chin Chu take out an exquisite silver pistol. Then he aimed at Chin Chu. "Chin Chu, be careful." Huamin shouted with all her strength. However, she was still a step too late. Chin Chu's chest was heavily injured, so his movements were already slowed down. He couldn't dodge the bullet in time. With a bang, the bullet pierced through his body. Huamin felt as if her heart was being torn apart by something. The pain spread endlessly. Chapter 979. Huamin suddenly pushed Zhou Guanghui away and rushed over like a madwoman. She hugged Chin Chu tightly as tears blurred her vision. She couldn't see anything clearly. The scar-faced man raised his gun again and aimed it at Huamin. Bang! This time it was Gao Ran's gun. This was the scene he saw when he arrived. Huamin hugged Chin Chu and cried her heart out. Chin Chu still had a dagger in his chest and his face was pale. He had completely fainted. The scar-faced criminal on the ground was holding a gun and aiming it at Huamin's back. She didn't have any intention of dodging. She only thought that if something happened to Chin Chu, she wouldn't be able to live either. Gao Ran didn't have time to think. Bang! 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 He fired 3 consecutive shots at the scar-faced man. He killed him. Then the police rushed in and subdued all the criminals. "Quick, carry Chin Chu to the ambulance." Gao Ran saw the urgency of the situation and waved his hand. The ambulance that he brought immediately came in to carry Huamin, but Huamin refused to let go. She hugged Chin Chu tightly and sat there. "Miss, we're going to carry him up. Don't touch him, none of you touch him." Huamin was completely dumbfounded. She had lost the ability to think properly. "Huamin, don't worry, we have to save people. Chin Chu's condition is too dangerous." If we don't save him in time, Gao Ran didn't have the heart to continue. He walked over and pulled Huamin away. Then he gave the paramedics a look. The two men immediately carried Qin Chu into the ambulance. At this time, Huamin suddenly snatched the gun from Gao Ran's hand when he wasn't paying attention. Huamin. Gao Ran didn't have time to shout. Huamin fired a shot at Zhou Guanghui. Because she hadn't been trained, her marksmanship wasn't very accurate, so she didn't hit the center point. It was Zhou Guanghui's lower abdomen. Huamin. Don't be impulsive, stop it. Gao Ran rushed over and grabbed Huamin's hand tightly. Firing a gun in front of the police was definitely not allowed. Firstly, the criminals had already surrendered. When they returned to the court, the police would convict them. Secondly, Huamin was not a police officer. He had no right to shoot at people. This was an illegal act. However, she didn't care about that. While Gao Ran wasn't paying attention, she still did this crazy thing. Gao Ran held her tightly. He watched as Huamin lost all rationality and went crazy. In the end, he had no choice but to hit her hard on the back of her neck. Only then did Huamin completely pass out. Take everyone away, Gao Ran ordered. Captain, what do we do with this injured woman? We only have one ambulance and we've already saved President Qin and Lady Qin. Gao Ran glanced at Zhou Guanghui, who was shot. She clutched her lower abdomen, which was bleeding non-stop. Huamin's shot wasn't enough to kill her immediately, but it was enough to make her want to die. If she didn't get resuscitated, she would probably die from bleeding at this rate. Don't worry about it, let's leave it to fate, Gao Ran said coldly. As a police officer, you don't care if I live or die. Do you even have human rights? Even if I'm a criminal, you still have to save me without a trial. Zhou Guanghui was highly educated, so she knew the law very well. Gao Ran turned around and looked at her coldly. Human rights are defined by people and you can no longer be called a person. You're a crazy woman. Even if you don't die this time, once the trial is over, you'll still be sentenced to death. Hell will be waiting for you. For the first time, Gao Ran didn't deal with this situation from the perspective of a police officer. Instead, he stood as a friend of Qin Chu and Huamin. If it weren't for the fact that there were so many people around, he would have shot Zhou Guanghui 3 times and killed her. The ambulance sped all the way to Southside Recuperation Center. Because the first hospital was located in the city center, they would be delayed if there was a traffic jam. For them, time was of the essence. Gao Ran immediately got off the highway and sent the two of them directly to Southside Recuperation Center. Then they were immediately sent to the emergency room for resuscitation. Hua Xiqian and Su Yu rushed to Southside as soon as they heard about the news. In the corridor of the emergency room, Wei Liao, Jiang Shaowei and the others were all there. The corridor was filled with people. How is it? How's Huamin? Su Yu was extremely worried. Qin Chu was shot and Huamin is also seriously injured. They're being resuscitated right now, Gao Ran said sadly. Su Yu's face was ashen. He took a few steps back and leaned against the wall, dispirited. Hua Xiqian kept his head down and didn't say anything. The atmosphere was unprecedentedly heavy. Chapter 980. When Huamin woke up again, it was already 6 hours later. Qin Chu. No, don't do anything stupid. He was still dreaming. Huamin woke up in Southside's VIP intensive care unit. Her body was still very weak. When the nurse saw that she had woken up, she immediately handed her a glass of water with a straw. Huamin drank a few mouthfuls in a daze before she felt a little bit of strength return to her body. She slowly opened her eyes and saw the blinding light in the room and the snow-white ceiling. Where's Qin Chu? Where is he? Huamin's voice was very soft. Dr. Hua, don't worry. Your lover is still in the emergency room. You should rest first. I want to find him. I want to see him. Huamin didn't care about anything else as she propped herself up. Then with trembling hands she pulled out the 4 in her hand and walked down. Perhaps it was because her body was too weak, so before her feet touched the ground she fell to the ground with a plop. Dr. Hua, don't be impulsive. You shouldn't get out of bed yet. You need to rest. No, I want to see him. Huamin only had one thought in her mind, and that was that she had to see Qin Chu. Otherwise she wouldn't give up. The nurse didn't expect Dr. Hua to have such a stubborn side. She didn't know what to do. She wanted to help her up, but Huamin reached out and blocked her hand. Don't worry about me, I have to see him. Then Huamin used all the strength in her body to get up and walk out step by step. Instead of walking, it was more like moving her feet. Dr. Hua, I'll help you over. Seeing that Huamin was struggling to walk, the nurse rushed over to help her. The nurse rushed up again to help Huamian. This time she didn't refuse. With the help of the nurse, she walked faster. She could see Qin Chu as soon as possible. Right now, Huamin only had Qin Chu in her mind. She didn't think about anything else. Everyone was stunned when they saw Huamin walk out of the ward. Suyu rushed forward anxiously. Are you crazy? Do you want to die? You're already like that. Why aren't you resting? What are you doing out here? Huamin directly ignored Suyu, who was talking to her, and kept walking forward. Her eyes were also dull. Little sister Mian, what you need to do now is rest, Huasiqian said, his heart aching. Huamin continued to ignore him. Huamin. Jiang Shaowei looked at Huamin and started crying. Maybe it was because pregnant women were more emotional, but her heart ached when she saw Huamin like this. The Huamin in front of her was no longer the woman who was calm in the face of danger and handled everything calmly. She was like an injured child. Her eyes were filled with panic and helplessness. She was so lonely and helpless. She continued to walk forward as if no one was around. She wanted to see Qin Chu one more time. Slightly, don't cry. They'll be fine. Wei Liao felt bad for his wife. He hugged Jiang Shaowei and comforted her. Huamin, you really shouldn't come out like this. Don't worry, I believe that Qin Chu will be fine. He doesn't want anything to happen to you. Go back and rest. Gao Ran looked haggard. Looking at Huamin like this, he felt terrible. Where's Qin Chu? Where's he? I want to see him. He's still in the emergency room. Gao Ran didn't dare to hide it from her, so he told her the truth. Huamin suddenly turned around and rushed to the door of the emergency room. She knocked on the door with all her might. She pounded on the door of the emergency room with both hands. She pounded on the door again and again until her palms turned red. Open the door, open the door. I want to see him. I want to see Qin Chu right now. Hurry up and open the door, I want to see him. Huamin's voice was so hoarse that people who were familiar with her couldn't tell that it was her voice. Huamin, don't be like this. Gao Ran went up to her and pulled her back. However, she refused to leave. She kept pounding on the door, demanding to see Qin Chu. Huamin, she's crazy, Wei Liao said in a low voice. Chapter 981. She's just been suppressing her feelings for Qin Chu for too long. No one knows how much she loves him. Now she's finally letting it all out. Jiang Shaowei knew Huamin better than anyone else. Huamin was a classic example of someone who was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. To outsiders, she was too cold and calm when it came to Qin Chu. The truth was, Qin Chu had always been a god in her heart and no one could replace him. Suyu looked at Huamin and felt as if someone had dug a big hole in his heart. It hurt so much that he couldn't breathe. She was such a calm and collected woman, but at this moment she was pounding on the door like a crazy woman. In the end, she cared too much about him. It turned out that loving someone so deeply could drive them to this extent. It turned out that Qin Chu was Huamin's only weakness. Suyu was furious. He strode over, grabbed Huamin's collar and dragged her back. Then he pinned her against the wall in the hallway. Huamin, wake up. He's still in the emergency room. You can't do anything by pounding on the door like this. Wake up. Let go of me, I want to see him. Huamin only had one terrifying thought in her mind. He had to see Qin Chu no matter what. You can't see him right now. He's in the middle of the surgery. He was shot. We don't know if he's dead or alive. You can't do anything by going crazy. Instead, you'll implicate the doctor who's going to operate on him. Where did your calmness go? Where did the pretentious Huamin go? Suyu also went crazy and roared at Huamin. Everyone was dumbfounded. Su, don't be like this. Huasiqian couldn't stand it anymore. After all, Huamian hadn't regained her consciousness and was as smart as a child. Would Suyu scare her with his angry roar? Unexpectedly, just as Huasiqian's hand touched Suyu, Suyu mercilessly flung it away. Don't touch me. Am I wrong? If you care about her, you can't let her continue to go crazy. After that, Suyu stared at Huamin with bloodshot eyes and said, if you still want Qin Chu to be fine, then shut up and go back to rest. Otherwise, even if he survives, I will shoot him to death. You? Huamin was stunned and wanted to say something. Suyu pointed at the nurse and scolded, what are you still doing here? Take her back. No, I want. Huamin didn't finish his sentence. Suyu grabbed Huamin's collar and dragged her back to the ICU. Although Huamin struggled with all her might, she couldn't resist Suyu at all. Suyu, isn't he too violent? Huasiqian rubbed his forehead, very conflicted. It seems like our Lord Su has also gone crazy. Wei Liao sighed slightly. Huamin went crazy because he cared about Qinchu. Suyu went crazy because he cared about Huamin. This series of terrifying chain reactions frightened the others so much that they didn't dare to say a word. After Huamin was dragged back to the ICU by Suyu, she was injected with a sedative because she was emotionally unstable. Suyu watched as Huamin fell asleep after she was injected with the sedative. His footsteps were very light, as if he had been drained of all his energy. No one knew how much his heart hurt when he treated Huamin like that, but he couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't bear to see her half dead, so he wanted her to pull herself together. He wanted her to be the fearless, arrogant Huamin that could overcome any obstacle. How is she? Huasiqian asked with concern. She was injected with a sedative and is asleep now, Suyu replied with a serious expression. Everyone let out a sigh of relief when they heard this. Just then the door to the ICU opened. When the chief surgeon walked out, his expression was serious. Doctor, how is my friend? Gao Ran anxiously asked. Chapter 982. He's alive for now. What do you mean, temporarily? Gao Ran heard the key point and asked nervously. The patient's injuries are too severe. Fortunately, he knows medicine, so the stab wound to his chest wasn't fatal. The force of the stab was just right, so it didn't cause a hemorrhage. Otherwise, he would have died from excessive blood loss. We've already put him on N4, but the doctor paused on purpose. He didn't know what he was going to say next. But what? Gao Ran continued to ask. But the stab wound was fatal. We weren't sure if we could successfully remove the bullet, so we didn't do it for now. However, the wound is fatal, so we can't not remove it. For now, we can only give him an injection to prevent infection. He won't last more than 48 hours, so we have to remove the bullet within 48 hours. Then why don't we remove it now? Gao Ran knew that the bullet wasn't removed yet. The doctor shook his head. It's not as simple as you think. The bullet is less than a centimeter away from the heart. If there's a slight mistake, it will damage the main blood supply next to the heart and immediately cause a heart hemorrhage. Once the heart hemorrhage, the person will die in less than a minute. Then what should we do? Gao Ran's heart sank when he heard the doctor's words. He leaned against the wall dispiritedly. His face was pale. We're going to discuss this with President Wu and see what the success rate is. Then the chief surgeon left with his assistant. Everyone fell silent again. Does he mean that Qinchu's chances of survival are slim? Huasiqian asked with a complicated expression. How could this be? Oh my god, if something happens to him, how is Huamin going to live? Jiang Shaowei covered her mouth. He felt terrible. She leaned against Wei Liao's shoulder and sobbed again. Are these doctors useless? They're just taking out a bullet. I've been shot before in the army, but I've never seen anyone act like this. If you can't do it, just transfer them to the military base in Jing City. I'll call my old man right now. Suyu had always thought of Qin Chu as his opponent, but he didn't want to waste any more time. However, he would never kick a man when he was down, especially after seeing how important he was to Huamin. Lord Su, calm down. We can't transfer him to another hospital right now. Qin Chu was shot, and the bullet's location is critical. The surgery will be difficult, and he won't be able to handle the turbulence. Plus, we don't have enough time. We'll need another surgery within 48 hours, Wei Liao explained. Then get all the medical experts in the capital to fucking bring me here. After that, Siyu picked up his phone and made a call as he walked. Hello? It's urgent. Let my grandfather hear it. He seemed to have called Lord Su's assistant. Suyu really put in a lot of effort this time. Gao Ran looked gratefully at Suyu's back. For the first time, he felt that he didn't hate Suyu. He was such a real man. He didn't kick a man when he was down, nor did he gloat. Instead, when Qin Chu was in need, he didn't hesitate to use his family's connections. Huamin was lucky to be liked by someone like him, right? Qin Chu should be proud to have such an opponent, right? At least Suyu was open and above board. At least Suyu wouldn't leave him in the lurch. While everyone was worried about Qin Chu's safety, Huasiqian quietly walked to Huamin's room. Through the glass window, he looked at her sleeping figure. His eyes were filled with love, heartache, and a little gentleness. To be honest, he didn't care about the life or death of anyone in this world, except for Huamin. He wasn't interested in Qinchu's life or death. He even hoped that Qinchu would never wake up. That way he wouldn't have to do it himself. What he cared about was that Huamin was fine and alive by his side. Does Huamin's mother know? Jiang Shaowei looked at Gao Ran and asked. Gao Ran shook his head, but I've already notified Uncle Qin. As soon as Gao Ran finished speaking, he saw Qin Yuman rushing over with his wife. Behind them was Song Yisher, who was wearing a beige dress and had a head of black hair. Gao Ran, how's Qinchu? Qin Yuman looked at Gao Ran and asked worriedly. Chapter 983. Uncle Qin, he isn't in a good condition right now. Gao Ran felt a little guilty and didn't know how to explain this to Qinchu's family. When Qinchu went to save Huamin, he went alone and didn't tell anyone. In the end, Gao Ran felt that something was wrong and secretly sent someone to follow Qinchu. That was how they arrived in time. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Oh my God, how did my son get shot? What the hell happened? Lady Qin was already crying and wiping away her tears. They only received news that Qinchu was shot and was in the hospital for emergency treatment. Song Yisher was drinking tea with Qinchu and Qinchu's parents. When she heard the news, she couldn't wait to come over. She looked quite worried. Gao Ran looked at them and slowly explained, here's what happened. Huamin was kidnapped and Qinchu went to save him. In the end, both of them were injured. Qinchu was shot, so he's in a bit more trouble. But don't worry, I believe that Qinchu will be fine. Gao Ran evaded the details and told them what happened. Everyone understood. Qin Yuman's face darkened and he didn't say anything. Lady Qin immediately exploded. What? To save Huamin? Why does she have to do with everything? Didn't I say that my son wouldn't get shot for no reason? This jinx really wants to jinx my son to death. In advance, I found a fortune teller to compare their horoscopes. The fortune teller said that they didn't get along, but my son didn't believe me. Look at what happened now. Now he's dead because of that woman. Lady Qin blamed everything on Huamin. Song Yisher held onto Lady Qin's arm with a heavy expression. Mama Qin, calm down. I believe that Qinchu will be fine. Where's that little bitch Huamin? I'm going to find her. Lady Qin looked around, thinking that Huamin was also here. Jiang Shaowei couldn't stand it anymore. She stood up and said, you have to understand that Huamin is also injured. Isn't it all her fault? She deserves to be unlucky and even implicated my son. Lady Qin looked vicious. Jiang Shaowei was even angrier when she heard this. Come on. They're married, what do you mean implicated? If you get kidnapped one day and your husband goes to save you, that's unlucky as well. You have to think before you speak. Don't say anything without thinking. You're a rich lady, don't be like a shrew, especially when you're slandering your own daughter-in-law. That's the woman that your son is willing to risk his life to protect. Hey, who are you? What do you have to do with this? Lady Qin glared at Jiang Shaowei and rolled her eyes. I'm Huamin's friend. I just can't stand people slandering him. You're welcome to do it. Jiang Shaowei looked like a tough woman. She directly started a fight with Qinchu's mother. Slightly, calm down. She's an elder after all, Wei Liao quietly reminded his hot-tempered wife. What a joke. Whose elder is she? If she deserves respect, I'll respect her. If she doesn't deserve respect, why would I pretend to be a white lotus? Huamin is still in the ICU with injuries all over his body. His mother doesn't even know about it. He's lying there right now and people are scolding him behind his back. What the fuck? You're such an uneducated woman. Lady Qin was furious when she heard Jiang Shaowei curse. She pointed at Jiang Shaowei's nose and scolded her. Mama Qin, forget it, let's stop arguing. Qinchu is still in the ICU, let's go see him. Song Yisher didn't like to argue with people in public, so she always paid attention to her perfect image. Song Yisher dragged Lady Qin towards Qinchu's ICU. Wei Liao and Jiang Shaowei also left the hospital. In the middle of the night, Zhu Lingling got off the plane. She didn't have time to sleep, so she took a taxi straight to the hospital. Gao Ran hadn't left yet, so he went to the door to pick her up. How's Huamin? She's fine, but she's emotionally unstable. Where's Qinchu? Zhu Lingling asked anxiously. He's not very optimistic. Why didn't you tell me something so big happened? Zhu Lingling complained to Gao Ran. Chapter 984. I didn't want you to worry. Gao Ran quietly followed behind Zhu Lingling. If you tell me now, I won't worry anymore. What kind of logic is that? You're such a pig brain. Zhu Lingling glared at Gao Ran and complained. She was wearing a long black cashmere coat with a bow tied around her waist. She was wearing medium-length black leather boots, and when she walked she looked a little flirtatious. Zhu Lingling was fair. Although she wasn't particularly beautiful, she wasn't bad either. Most importantly, in this era where plastic surgery was the norm, a natural beauty like Zhu Lingling would naturally have a very recognizable face. Gao Ran had feelings for Zhu Lingling since they were in school, but Zhu Lingling had a fiery temper. Gao Ran didn't dare to confess because he was afraid that if she rejected him, it would be really awkward and they wouldn't even be friends anymore. So the two of them had always been hesitant. Zhu Lingling, on the other hand, thought that Gao Ran hated her, so she didn't even think about it. Over the years she had been in a lot of relationships, but they all ended in failure. After going around in circles, the two of them were now single, and the more they walked, the more they seemed to have a chance. In Huomin's words, there was already a chance for them to be together. Hey, you're walking so fast in heels, I'm speechless, Gao Ran muttered as he followed behind Zhu Lingling. Do you know what you're talking about? What do you mean by heels? Mine is only 5 centimeters tall, okay? Didn't you see what mine looks like at 7 centimeters? Zhu Lingling retorted. The two of them walked all the way to the VIP intensive care unit on the top floor. Huomin and Qin Chu's rooms were a few rooms apart, and the Qin family members were all outside Qin Chu's room. Song Yisher was still standing at the door with a small handkerchief. She kept wiping her tears. Those who didn't know would think that she was Qin Chu's wife. Zhu Lingling asked unhappily, "Why is that woman here? What does it have to do with her?" "He came with Uncle Qin and the others, so I can't chase him away. He has the right to visit you." The two chatted as they walked. When Zhu Lingling arrived at the door of the ward, she couldn't wait to rush in. Then it became a little awkward. She saw Huosichen covering Huomin with a blanket. There was a tenderness in his eyes that she had never seen before. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she wouldn't have believed that Huosichen would treat Huomin so well. He was just like a real brother. When he saw Zhu Lingling walk in, Huosichen didn't feel awkward at all. He stood up and walked out. "Since you're here, I'll take my leave first." Gao Ran nodded. After Huosichen left, Zhu Lingling put down her bag, took off her jacket and walked over to Huomin. Her face was pale and she was wearing a hospital gown. She had already fallen into a deep sleep. "Oh my God, what the hell? Those damn kidnappers, remember to shoot them in the head when you shoot them. They're inhumane." Zhu Lingling's heart ached when she saw how weak Huomin was. All these years he hadn't seen Huomian's weak side. Gao Ran scratched the tip of his nose and didn't dare to make a sound. He didn't dare to tell Zhu Lingling that when the prisoners recorded their statements, they said that Huomin was beaten up because he refused to call Qin Chu. He was even hung in a bucket and almost drowned. It was simply inhumane. Has Huomin ever woken up? Zhu Lingling asked as she held Huomin's hand and placed it in her palm. She woke up once. He was very emotional, like a crazy person. She wanted to see Qin Chu and even smashed the door of the ore. He cares too much about Qin Chu. I didn't think Huomin loved Qin Chu so much before. Gao Ran scratched the back of his head. Huomin really opened his eyes this time. That's because you're stupid. Our Mion is the slow type. You can never see how good she is to someone on the surface, but she'll use her actions to prove it. She hasn't had a baby yet. Last time she went with me to see a traditional Chinese doctor and took a lot of Chinese medicine. The smell made me sick, but she drank it 3 times a day. After drinking it, she couldn't help but throw up. Then she drank it again and forced herself to drink it, all so that she could give birth to Qin Chu's child, Zhu Lingling said quietly. Gao Ran licked his lips. Then she's really good. What do you think? If Huomin didn't love Qin Chu, would she be willing to do all this? Zhu Lingling asked. But right now, Qin Chu might not even wake up. Gao Ran's words once again made Zhu Lingling's expression extremely ugly. She turned her head and looked at Gao Ran in shock. What did you say? Chapter 985. Mion, don't worry, Qin Chu's fine. He's in the ICU next door. I want to go see him, Huomin said as she stood up. Hey, you're very weak right now, you can't walk around. Girl, trust me, I won't lie to you. Qin Chu's really fine. Zhu Lingling knew that Huamin was afraid that everyone would lie to her. That was why she was anxious to see if Qin Chu was really in the IC right now. Lingling, I want to see him with my own eyes. Huamin's eyes were filled with tears as if she had been wronged. Okay, don't cry, I'll take you there. But let's make a deal, we'll come back after one look, okay? Zhu Lingling comforted Huamin. Huamin nodded slightly. Zhu Lingling helped her get off the bed and carefully walked out of the room. There was no one outside Qin Chu's room. Because he was still in critical condition, his family couldn't enter. The Qin family had gone out for dinner and hadn't returned yet. Zhu Lingling took advantage of this opportunity to help Huamin to Qin Chu's room. Huamin leaned against the large glass window and looked inside. Qin Chu lay there quietly with tubes all over his body. His condition was far more complicated than hers. Huamin couldn't stop her tears from falling as soon as she saw him. Girl, we agreed not to cry. You're still very weak, you have to take care of yourself so that you have the strength to take care of Qin Chu. Zhu Lingling gently patted her back to comfort her. Huamin only cried silently. After about 5 minutes, Zhu Lingling saw that her legs were trembling and knew that she was exhausted. Girl, let's go back. You haven't eaten yet. Let's rest for a while and come back later. Huamin didn't struggle. He looked at Qin Chu with some reluctance and then walked back. At this moment, they bumped into Lady Qin and Song Yisher, who had just returned from dinner. I'm puzzled. My son is so badly injured. How come you're fine? Lady Qin looked at Huamin coldly. Lady Qin, Huamin is already sad enough, and her injuries aren't light either, okay? Now is not the time to discuss this, is it? Zhu Lingling looked at Lady Qin angrily. Huamin, are you okay? Song Yisher asked gently as she held onto Lady Qin's arm. Huamin glanced at them indifferently and didn't say anything. Then he followed Zhu Lingling back to the ward. Look at you, you even greeted her. What kind of person are you? You can't even talk to her. Lady Qin scolded. It's okay. I think Huamin might be in a bad mood because her injuries haven't healed yet. I don't mind. Sure, are too kind, Lady Qin complained. Then the two of them walked to Qin Chu's ward. When they returned to the ward, Huamin's emotions had calmed down a lot. She wiped the tears off her face with a tissue and sat on the bed. The assistant nurse came in to take her temperature and give her an 4 drip. She obediently cooperated. Dr. Ho, rest well. Don't think too much, the nurse said. Huamin nodded slightly. Girl, is Kanji okay? Do you want eggs? Okay. Huamin nodded. Zhu Lingling gently fed her food. She ate in big bites and seemed to have a good appetite. Seeing that she was energetic, Zhu Lingling was relieved. After eating, Huamin looked at Zhu Lingling and said, Lingling, please. I want to see Qin Chu's chief surgeon. What? Zhu Lingling was confused. Go call him over. I have something to say to him. Huamin's face was extremely calm. She seemed to have completely recovered. Oh, wait for me. Zhu Lingling didn't know what Huamin wanted to do. She thought that she just wanted to know about Qin Chu's condition, so she didn't think too much about it. Instead, she went to call Qin Chu's chief surgeon over. Since they were all colleagues at Southside, the chief surgeon quickly came to Huamin's ward. Dr. Hua, you were looking for me? Director Su, how is my husband doing? You don't have to hide anything, tell me everything, Huamin said calmly as she looked at Qin Chu's chief surgeon. Chapter 986. Director Su seemed to be in a difficult position, or rather he didn't dare to say it. Don't worry, I'm a doctor too. You can't hide anything from me. I saw that Qin Chu was still receiving blood transfusions and oxygen injections. His bullet probably hasn't been taken out yet, right? Huamin guessed. Director Su nodded. Dr. Hua, I'm sorry, we tried our best yesterday. Luckily, the stab wound wasn't fatal, or else we wouldn't have been able to save him. What's more difficult right now is the bullet next to his heart. Its location is too sensitive, it's less than a centimeter away from his heart. The surgery is very difficult. I don't need to tell you how difficult it is, you should know. But if it's not taken out in time, there's a risk of infection. So we need to do another surgery within 48 hours to remove the bullet. What's the probability of success? Huamin asked calmly. Less than 20%, I think. Director Su glanced at Huamin and said in a low voice. Huamin felt a chill in his heart. His expression also became very unpleasant. But let's see what the doctors from Jing City have to say when they come over tonight. Maybe they have a way, Director Su said. Jing City? Huamin frowned slightly. He didn't understand what was going on. You probably don't know yet, but your friend Suyu used his connections in the military and invited the best surgeon in Jing City's military general hospital. He arrived in the city this afternoon with 3 assistants. If everything goes well, the surgery can be done tonight. Huamin remained silent after hearing this. She didn't think that Suyu would be so helpful. How could a normal person use a doctor from the military? With Suyu's help, perhaps the success rate would be slightly higher. However, as a medical student, Huamin knew how dangerous that position was. Okay, I got it. After Director Su left, Huamin sat quietly on the bed without saying anything. He only looked at the pure white snow outside the window. A few days ago, he was still holding her hand as they strolled through the snow. He had promised to be with her until his hair turned white. But now he was lying on a hospital bed, his life and death unknown. Qin Chu, you can't leave me behind. Otherwise, I won't forgive you even if I die. Huamin looked out of the window with a desolate look in his eyes. Hua Xiqian was the first to arrive at the ward. He was holding a large bouquet of heavenly fragrant lilies, which were very beautiful. Sister Mian, you look a lot more energetic today. He chuckled. Huamin glanced at him but didn't say anything. The old man doesn't know about you. I didn't tell him. There's no need to tell him. It has nothing to do with him, Huamin said coldly. I know. You didn't even tell your mother. I guess that you didn't want her to know. Hua Xiqian asked again. What do you want to eat? I'll go buy it. Yes, I have. Good. Eat more. Look at your face, you look like a ghost. You don't even need to put on makeup for a horror movie. Hua Xiqian tried to make Huamin laugh with a joke. But she didn't react at all. Those criminals will definitely be sentenced to death. Don't worry, we've gotten our revenge, Hua Xiqian comforted her. Huamin nodded but still didn't say anything. To her, revenge was no longer her concern. She was more concerned about Qin Chu's safety. Just then Suyu walked in. He didn't bring any flowers or food. His hands were empty. You're awake, he asked. Huamin turned around and saw Suyu. He also had dark circles under his eyes. It seemed like he didn't sleep well either. Don't worry, your husband will be fine. My grandpa sent the best military doctor here. He'll be here in 3 hours. Thank you. For the first time, Huamin was so grateful to Suyu. Even though the military doctor couldn't guarantee the success of the surgery, at least it increased the chances of survival. Don't be jealous. If you really want to thank me, ask your husband to stop fighting with me after he wakes up. And stop making movies to steal the market from me. Suyu forced a smile. Huamin moved his lips. He wanted to say something but in the end he didn't say anything. 3 hours later, the military doctor arrived at Southside. In the conference room, Qin Chu's chief surgeon, Director Su, Huamin, President Wu and the military doctor, Professor Feng, started a discussion. Professor Feng, that's the situation for now. What are the chances of the surgery succeeding? Director Wu looked respectfully at the old man beside him who was in his 60s. Professor Feng looked at the information in his hands and Qin Chu's CT scans. He didn't say anything. Professor Feng. Huamin looked at him nervously and asked again. Chapter 987. After a while, Professor Feng slowly raised his head and looked at the other 3 people. Finally, his gaze fell on Huamin's face. To be honest, it is indeed very difficult, Professor Feng said in a heavy tone. What are the chances of success? Huamin asked anxiously. She hoped that she would hear a satisfactory answer. She wanted to hear at least a 50% chance of success for Qin Chu to perform the surgery and take the risk. However, things often went against her wishes. Based on my years of clinical experience, the success rate of this surgery should be less than 30%. After Professor Feng said this, the others all gasped. Previously, Director Su said that the success rate was less than 20%. Su spent a lot of effort to get such a famous doctor to come over. However, it only increased by less than 10%. It was still far from the 50% that Huamin had hoped for. Huamin's eyes instantly became extremely cold. Her hands and feet were cold as she sat there in a daze without saying a word. Huamin, don't worry too much. I believe that Qin Chu will be blessed by God. President Wu comforted her gently. Director, we all know that the saying heaven blesses the good is used to comfort people. Please don't say that to me. Huomion's voice was extremely hoarse, as if she could lose her voice at any moment. It was heartbreaking to hear. Director Dr. Huo, what should we do now? Should we perform the surgery or not? Director Su asked carefully. It seemed like they had no other choice. If they performed the surgery, the risk was very high. Even if a famous doctor from Jing City came, the success rate would still be less than 30%. If they didn't perform the surgery, Qin Chu's heart would be infected 48 hours later. Then, the consequences would be unimaginable. Time is of the essence. Huomin, you are Qin Chu's immediate family member. You make the decision. President Wu knew about Huomin's feelings for Qin Chu, so he directly handed the power to her. President Wu, give me some time. I need to think about it. Huomin suddenly felt a lot of pressure. Professor Feng looked at his watch. Young lady, my suggestion is that if you agree to the surgery, we can start tomorrow morning. The human body will be at its peak in the morning, and it will also help our surgery go smoothly. You still have one night to think about it. The latest can't be later than tomorrow. Okay. Huomin nodded solemnly. After the meeting ended, Huomian walked out of the conference room in a terrible mood. When she returned to the ward, Zhu Lingling immediately supported her. How was it? How was the discussion? When will Qin Chu start? Let me think about it. Huomian's face was pale. Are you hungry? What do you want to eat? I'll go buy it. I'm not hungry. Lingling, you should go back and get some rest. You must be tired. I have an assistant nurse here. Plus, I want to be alone and think about something. Are you okay? I'm fine. I'm strong. I'm still that Huomian that can't be beaten to death. Huomin forced a smile. I'll come back tomorrow morning. Get some rest. Then Zhu Lingling walked out of the room. Before she left, she repeatedly told the nurse to take good care of Huomin because she was emotionally unstable. After Zhu Lingling left, Huomin walked to the window and stood there alone for a long time. She didn't even hear Suyu knocking on the door and walking in. What are you thinking about? Suyu's voice was very soft, as if he was afraid of scaring Huomin. Huomin turned around and smiled when she saw Suyu. You're here? That smile was a little pale, a little weak, and a little thought-provoking. You're tuning in to the Biao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.